In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. George Orwell. Yeah. This is Blood Politics. The only podcast where we don't talk about politics. We be about politics. And our mission statement is to empower, educate, and encourage everyone to speak out against fascism. Speak out against injustice and fight for freedom and equality for everyone. This is Blood Politics, and we ain't stopping till they put us in the grave. We ain't gonna be quiet, and we ain't gonna be scared, and we ain't gonna go along with the crowd. This is Blood Politics.
What's up, gang?
It ain't about Dem or Republican. It's about right and wrong. It's about us versus them.
Let's go. Let's go.
Politics. And we gonna do what we gotta do. Because
what do you say?
else
We're gonna hop right into things. First, right off the bat, we need to do some housekeeping, a little cleanup. I need you guys to tell me how the sound is. I got to say, my streaming mic has seen better days, but I had these mics sitting around, the kind of travel on the street in real time mics. But, you know, let me know how it goes. Let me know in the chat if it sounds okay. I do still have the ability to switch back to the streaming mic if that was better by a long shot. But I just figured I'd give it a shot. Kind of gives me ability to move around and stuff as well. So make sure you can hear me. Somebody says it's low. Let me see here. Low, high. Let me know. It sounds good. Yakov sounds good. Don says low. I think I have the ability to turn it up as well. But, you know, give me some thumbs up in the chat. I appreciate you guys for joining me. Like I said, we'll be streaming here on a Sunday talking politics, obviously 24 May 2026. Thank you for joining me once again. The major issues that we'll be facing today and talking about today, obviously the backlash that Donald Trump is getting from all angles, from all sides on his new possible Iran deal that he's ready to make, but not also ready to make, but telling people not to hurry up and make. It's all a mess. There is no detailed report that is out for people to look at so we can see a clear and concise plan, you know, see what the details are. So it's all speculation. It's all different people's reports. So we'll be diving through the entirety of it. Obviously, the shooting at the White House, some weirdness taking place as that's concerned, but obviously the videos coming out are pretty intense. We also have to talk about the night that Kyiv has faced a major Russian missile attack in Kyiv, as I'm sure you guys have probably heard, reported by now. But also Ukraine was able to conduct more strikes on Russia. So we'll be taking a look at some tweets from Mike Johnson, Mike Pompeo, Ted Cruz, some people on the Republican side, obviously Donald Trump's team themselves, that are not too happy with this apparent deal that Donald Trump's getting ready to sign. But again, that remains to be seen. As for the time I came on live today, I didn't see any details, anything reported. Like I said, that gave us a clear indication, a clear picture of what was being discussed, what was on the table. It is just kind of reporting from here and reporting from there. But how are we doing on the sound? Everybody's okay with the sound? Thumbs up from Roxanne. How we doing, Jackie? I'll bring the chat in. You guys can, like I said, you guys deserve some screen time. How you guys doing? What's going on from Ireland? How are you? What's going on? Appreciate you joining me from Ireland. That's awesome. That's amazing. Appreciate you, my brother. Thank you so much. I always love the support from overseas as well. Thank you, Trina. What's going on, everybody on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Substack, the whole nine. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit that. DPD says sounds great. Vasantha says fine with me too. Again, I just want to make sure on all platforms, because sometimes it's different, you know, between Twitch and Substack and Instagram, the whole nine yards. So sometimes their sound is a bit different. So thumbs up already. Appreciate you guys for joining me. Like I said, if there's any trouble with that, if you find anybody's having issues with the sound, just let me know in the chat. And like I said, I think I have the ability to switch back to the regular microphone. But we'll roll with this until everybody says until anybody says they're having problems. But like I said, a bunch of the hot topics to be going through, a few of the updates that we'll get into. Let me throw this on your screen. I appreciate you guys in the chat as always. Salute to the mods. Thank you for dealing with all the nonsense down there, keeping this chat a safe place. And thank you, as always, to the best community that's ever been built on social media right here at Blunt Politics. So you guys have been amazing, continue to be amazing. There's a Venmo up in the corner if you guys want to take a buck or two out of your seat cushions, throw it in to support some independent media. That would be fantastic. You can sign up for a YouTube membership just underneath me somewhere. Should be a couple buttons for allowing you to do that. And then if you want to go the extra mile, you can head over to patreon.com/BostonBrian. Again, those are kind of the backbones of the community. We got multiple backbones here. You know, we try to spread it around because it is, again, like we say, an independent media channel. We have no outside sponsors, backers, financiers, nothing like that. We don't sell you any ridiculous outside products that say, you know, we're going to tell you that changed our lives, but really we got sent them last night at a discount or free even. But none of that bullshit, no ads in between our live stream. So if you guys could, again, like I said, kick in a buck or two, that would be fantastic. And again, thank you so much for getting us past 20,000 subscribers. But like we'll be talking about, let's start off here with some of this reporting coming from what's going to take place with Iran. Seemingly looks like Donald Trump's ready to give up, ready to taco out of this, per some of the reporting, and then some of the new reporting saying that he's, you know, kind of not rushing into this because of the backlash that he's seen from, you know, some of the people on his side. It's not just the Donald Trump detractors. It's not just the people that can't stand Donald Trump that are talking about how horrendous this deal would be. But it is also, like I said, people like Ted Cruz, Mike Pompeo, etc. And then Donald Trump's propaganda team, Stephen Chung's having to go out there and combat them all on Twitter. But let me throw this on your screen. Let me see if I can share this, throw this on there for you guys to see, because this is just like I said, we'll be going through just some of the reporting that we could find, all of the reporting that we could find, basically on all of the different details kind of being thrown around as to what to expect from this potential deal. Some people kind of see, you know, some of the experts have said that it seems like this one's maybe a little bit closer than all of the other times that we've heard the bluster and bullshit from Trump and from anybody else in his camp trying to suggest that there's a deal near. But this is some of the reporting coming out. Trey Yingst, because his affiliation with Fox News, seems to be getting the, you know, the earliest updates. I don't know if Donald Trump's feeding him to Fox News directly, but we'll be going through here. We got some exclusive reporting from Drop Site. We'll be going through all of the, I think there's some Clash reports, updates to get through. So again, everybody that's reporting on this, we'll be going through all of it to get all the details out there, and then you guys can kind of put it together and come to the conclusions that you believe is what's going to take place. But like I said, this is just an update here. It says the deal states the U.S. forces will stay in the proximity with Iran for 30 days. A regional source has reviewed the deal, told Fox News. Context here is that it signals the Iran military option remains on the table if nuclear issues aren't resolved or in the interim agreed the agreement is violated. Again, this seems to be a through line with the Iranians. They have, again, not agreed to hand over their enriched uranium. I think I've been hearing this like 30 to 60 day window if in fact the hostilities do come to an end. But like I said, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's just dive into a couple minutes of this update before we take a look at how the rest of the world is reporting. This is Trey Yingst on Fox News and what he's talking about as far as this possible deal with Iran.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. Overnight, President Trump announced that a deal with Iran has been largely negotiated. The president indicated.
And again, this is what, the 37th, maybe, no, 47th time, maybe, possibly, that this has happened. Like, this is like, I don't know, I'm going to say like 38th to 40th time that Donald Trump's come out and said that there's been like some deal right around the corner, that this is going to take place any minute now. Don't worry, we got him on the ropes, even though everything that's coming out right now would be far worse than we had in the JCPOA. I got some of the, like the general overview of the JCPOA, and we'll kind of go side by side with some of this reporting because it's really easy for anybody with a brain inside their heads to see that, this is nowhere even remotely close to what we had with the JCPOA. And obviously was not worth the money spent, the deaths incurred here by this fucking illegal action that we've taken, and that this is a clear, clear disaster, a disastrous war undertaken by our administration.
There are still a number of small details and aspects that have to be worked out, but the deal will be announced shortly, according to the president. A regional source who has reviewed the agreement told Fox News the deal states that U.S. forces will stay in the proximity of Iran for 30 days. The context here is that it signals to Iran the military option remains on the table if nuclear issues aren't resolved or the interim agreement is violated. The source added that as part of the deal, Iran will receive oil sanctions waivers. Iran will also have frozen funds and assets released worth billions of dollars.
And again, that's a big fucking point of contention for some of the people we'll be going on and talking about, especially in the Republican base. For how many years now have they been crying and complaining? Donald Trump's been bitching and complaining about the JCPOA and the bad deal Obama signed and how much money they were given. Well, how much money has this war cost us in general as the American taxpayers? And then how much money here are we going to be talking about sending back over to them? Who knows what's going to come from, the talk of reparations. Obviously, the enriched uranium has not been agreed to, like Donald Trump has said, was the fucking, was the line in the sand, was the red line that he was not willing to cross. That was going to have to be something agreed to by the Iranians if it wasn't complete and outright regime change, if it wasn't just complete and outright revolution by the Iranian, population taking over their country, taking over their government, overthrowing their government. None of that shit have we seen. And it looks like, Donald Trump's just going down the list of like, okay, I'm not getting that. I'm not getting that. Didn't get that. Didn't get that. Doesn't look like we're getting anything. So he's trying to back his way out of this deal. And this is like what people like Ted Cruz and Mike Pompeo are talking about as well.
On Saturday, President Trump held a call that included leaders from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, and Pakistan, aimed at reaching a broader understanding. A separate regional diplomat told Fox News the call was very positive. Good progress is being made, adding that regional leaders were supportive of the progress and of the breakthrough President Trump achieved with the talks. We are still awaiting all of the final details of this understanding, but President Trump said...
Again, because there are no final details. And like I said, from the time that I started live here, what was it, 11 minutes and 12 seconds ago, I didn't see anything that was like, okay, this is the deal. This is the specific deal. Here are the specific points. This is what's going to be agreed upon or not to be agreed upon right here. It's not. It's just different fucking, points of rhetoric, different things that the Trump and thank you so much. Appreciate that. Let's go right back at you guys, MT. Appreciate you. Much love from everybody here at Blunt Politics to everybody over there in the crew. Salute to you guys and very much appreciated for the contributions, my friend. Hopefully, we'll be starting our second NAFO campaign in the next coming days, so we'll be able to announce that. Hopefully, as we kick off the second campaign. But thank you so much to you guys over there in Warsaw for paying attention, for tuning in, and obviously for the support. So big salute to you guys. Tell Ken I said what's up.
The Strait of Hormuz will be opened shortly after Iranian state media pushed back on that aspect of his truce.
What's funny is the strait's been open the entire time. Like Iran's told us that the strait's been open. Like the strait's open. Like anybody that wants to talk to us, anybody that wants to pay the toll, right? Anybody that's got, the paperwork that the Iranians have signed off on, like you guys can go ahead. Anybody go for it. You know what I mean? And then it was the United States that decided to blockade the blockade of the blockade. Now it's the blockade of the blockade is going to stay in place for 30 days, even after a deal is signed, just so we could show the Iranians that, we still have the ability to do something militarily. Like the whole thing is just, it's piss poorly done. It's a disaster at all fronts. It again gives the Iranians the ability to for the rest of the world to have to respect their ability to control the Strait of Hormuz, right? If somebody were to act up again, if any one of the Gulf nations act up again, if they see that the United States, if a deal has been signed, hypothetically, of course, if they see that the United States has reneged on some part of the agreement, obviously we're going to have to respect their ability to control the Strait of Hormuz, and we're right back into this again. Right. So again, this is all speculation at this point. This is all, if, ands, maybes, possiblies, might possibly see at some point type of aspect. But, going through that, there's some of the reporting here from Trey Yingst, Fox News. But there's a ton of other details that are coming out from obviously other news sites and stuff. Like here's some from Drop Sites. As Iranian official outlines latest proposal to end the U.S. war and Trump weighs new strikes. It says the framework would defer nuclear enrichment talks until the deal to the end of the war and the open to the Strait of Hormuz has been done, the senior Iranian official told Drop Site News. So again, you can see how the reporting and the details kind of change depending on who's reporting on it, because there's no clear and concise thing for everybody to say, okay, here is the plan. You know what I mean? So there's no transparency. It's all kind of up in the air. But this goes on to say that Iran has submitted its latest proposal to mediators to negotiate an end to the U.S. war. A senior Iranian official told Drop Site News amid ongoing threats from the White House and reporting that Trump administration may be preparing to escalate militarily as soon as this weekend. The senior Iranian official reveals details of Tehran's ongoing talks with the Trump administration through regional mediators and outlined Iran's latest proposal for diplomatic resolution. The official said that Tehran put forward a set of terms as a framework for a deal, including the provisional reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, contingent to an end of the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports, the release of billions of dollars in frozen Iranian assets, and a plan to compensate Iran for damages incurred in the war. Right. So again, these are all points that we've heard from Iran time and time again. Doesn't seem like they've changed much. It seems like more along the lines that the United States is more able or willing to agree to these points now than it is the Iranians have somehow like changed their stance and are willing to agree to what the United States is saying. But it goes on here to say that today the mediator stated that Trump appears seriously interested in declaring an end to the war, the official said, though that they offered mixed signals on whether they would respond positively to Tehran's latest terms. But he cautioned there are still significant differences between the two sides, reiterating that Iran has made plans to launch retaliatory strikes if the U.S. and Israel resume attacks. Since the American side insists on conducting the discussion solely within the framework of the nuclear issue, no meaningful progress was achieved regarding the proposals exchanged prior to the mediator's visit. And again, there's statements from different Iranian officials that they're saying, no, the enriched uranium is not leaving Iran. Again, this is something that, both sides seem to have kind of a differing opinion on, a differing, stance on. It says here that in the midst of the talks, Trump is reportedly weighing further strikes against Iran. So again, this is not set in stone. This is clearly not something that is more or less likely to happen than this like escalatory actions at this term. It's just words. It's just rhetoric. It's just statements. It's just being speculated on at this point. So it says on Friday, he met with War Secretary Pete Hegseth, national security officials in the Oval Office, with Axios reporting that Trump is, quote, seriously considering launching new strikes against Iran, barring a last-minute breakthrough in negotiations. Later in the day, he posted on Truth Social that he would not be attending his son's wedding and would remain in Washington, D.C. over the long weekend due to, quote, circumstances pertaining to government and my love for the United States of America, which a lot of people were speculating he might decide to hit the go button in that time. That issue of sequencing the end of the war and the nuclear negotiation remains a major point of contention. The Iranian official said in the latest proposal, Iran has offered to dilute its nuclear material under supervision while agreeing to limits on its uranium enrichment capacity. But President Donald Trump has staked the United States campaign against Iran on eliminating Iran's ability to create a nuclear weapon, a red line that the White House continues to maintain. Trump made his red lines abundantly clear. White House spokesperson Anna Kelly told CBS News Iran can never possess a nuclear weapon and they cannot keep the enriched uranium. No intelligence assessment has ever concluded that Iran was ever close to developing a nuclear weapon, which is, again, just a banger. That's almost like a grok, community notes on that one. Talking about Donald Trump says they can never have a nuclear weapon or they can't keep their enriched uranium. It says no intelligence assessment has ever concluded that Iran was close to developing a nuclear weapon. Iran believes that Trump himself, who has shifted between wild threats to destroy Iran and declarations of victory, is a major wild card in achieving any deal. Iran Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told a UN chief on Friday that the White House excessive demands were the main barrier to a deal. So it's like they've been saying that the whole time too. What's to say that even if we agree to some of these points, even if we come to the negotiating table, what's to say that Donald Trump would even fulfill his end of the duties, right? His end of the bargain. He's shown time and time again that he's a liar, he's a con man, he's a fraud. And why would we ever give up our leverage, our power, just to have him go on and possibly, at a flick of a switch, just start conducting this war again? It says the personal political decision of Trump remains a serious obstacle to achieving peace. In his message to Pakistani side, he expressed a willingness to end the war, but after the Pakistani delegation arrived in Tehran today, he again adopted different positions in the exchange messages. Due to the lack of constructive engagement from the American side, no draft text has yet been produced. And this goes on to talk about a little bit more of what the deal, may deal with. It says the negotiations have been divided into two separate tracks, the official said, with one track focused on concluding an agreement declaring an end to the war, and the second related to the dispute over the Iranian nuclear program. The Iranian framework outlines a proposal where, following an initial agreement to officially end the war, an announcement of an end to the U.S. naval blockade on Iranian ports, Iran would temporarily reopen the Strait of Hormuz and waive transit fees. This arrangement will remain in place until the new governance regime for Hormuz, which Iran will announce soon, is finalized. Again, showing, to me at least, you guys can come to your own conclusions. Let me know in the chat what you guys think. But doesn't that show clear ownership or at least a clear willingness to put together some sort of committee, some sort of governance regime, as they call it, to control the Strait of Hormuz going forward, and whether that's tolls or whether that's just like, hey, the threat of don't fuck up. Whatever country is allowing their ships to pass through, don't fuck up, or we have the ability to, again, strike those ships, close the strait in general type of thing. But again, that doesn't seem to me like capitulation. That doesn't seem to me like somebody that knows they're losing this battle. But like I said, you guys tell me in the chat what you guys think. It says the official reported that this formula had been agreed to by Iran in response to the destructive impact on the conflict on global energy and food markets and requests for relief from regional European and Asian countries. In exchange, the U.S. would have to agree to release part of Iran's frozen assets, which we talked about, to the tunes of billions and billions and billions of dollars, as well as to create an international mechanism involving the U.S. and other countries that participated in the war to compensate Iran for losses. And again, what that could be told at, what that could be detailed at, is anybody's guess. But we're already talking about billions on top of billions on top of billions being sent to Iran, per the United States, if they were to sign this agreement. It says the Iranian position also mandates an end to the war across the region, particularly in Lebanon, where Israel has continued to carry out massive military assault despite a nominal ceasefire. Again, we've seen actions recently, obviously, in the West Bank. We've talked about the settler colonialism going on over there as well, attacks in Gaza going on. So this could have ramifications to this agreement going on, whether that takes place as well, because we've talked about how the Iranians have said time and time again that Lebanon and in Israel's attacks on Lebanon would absolutely be part of the deal. Again, they're worried about their proxies. After the conclusion of the agreement to end the war as a part of the subsequent negotiation on the nuclear file, Iran also laid out terms that would include commitments to not develop a nuclear weapon. Again, something that hasn't changed. In exchange, Iran would ask for recognition of its nuclear enrichment rights, which would remain limited for several years under the agreement. And it goes on to say here, quote, Iran will voluntarily suspend enrichment above 3.6% for a period of 10 years. Existing uranium enriched above 20% will be diluted inside Iran with the participation of mediators and will be used domestically for peaceful purposes. So again, the enriched uranium will not leave Iran, per what's being reported here by Dropsite News. The Iranian official said, and then it goes on to say, in regards to an Iranian commitment to not develop a nuclear weapon, quote, this will be a binding prerequisite in our view, provided that our country's official rights are recognized, and it will be explicitly included in the formal text of the nuclear agreement. Many of the details about enrichment levels and rights guaranteed to Iran under the Treaty of the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons stick closely to previous Iranian proposals before the war, as well as the 2015 nuclear agreement successfully negotiated between Washington and Tehran. The Trump administration the official said, has indicated that it wants to deal on the nuclear program and ending the war to occur simultaneously. In the Trump administration's messages, they have conditioned the release of financial resources on the outcome of the nuclear negotiations. This is not acceptable to us, end quote, the Iranian official said. We're considering the full lifting of sanctions to be a reasonable outcome in exchange for a successful conclusion to the nuclear negotiations. Our blocked assets must be released immediately for the reconstruction of the country in return for the official declaration ending the war. They have explicitly rejected both the requested amount and the proposed mechanism for our access to the financial resources. Over the past several days, as Trump has threatened a resumption of strikes, regional countries have been engaged in an intense shuttle diplomacy between Iran and the United States. After the United States submitted its most recent proposal earlier this week, Trump said, if we don't get the right answers, it goes very quickly. We're all ready to go. The talks between Washington and Tehran are being officially mediated by Pakistan, though other countries, including China, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, are playing supporting roles in formulating an agreement. So this goes on just to talk about the pressure that the United States was placing upon them as well. But as far as, again, the details, the talking points, the sticking points, what's actually being put into this deal still remains to be seen. That's kind of why we're going through this reporting here, to see what actually is going on. This is being reported by the Clash Report. As we just talked about, Tehran has not agreed to transfer its highly enriched uranium stockpile out of the country, and the nuclear issue is not part of the current preliminary agreement with the United States, and that source is Reuters, citing an Iranian official. So you can see how, depending on who you're talking to, depending on who you listen to, it's a good thing, because they have, promised to give up their enriched uranium. If you talk to some of the Republicans, meanwhile, if you actually look at what's being said, that's not what's taking place here, whatsoever. And again, there was that 30 to 60-day timeline as well. But let me see here if there was anything else that we could dive into as far as that one was concerned, because it was a Clash Report. that had something else on this? Let me see. We'll just kind of go through it. I think that was it on that one, because that brought up obviously this response from different people as well on the right side. And this is kind of how you know from what they've seen, from what they're being told, whatever this deal entails, they're not looking at it like it's a benefit, like it's a victory whatsoever. You know, when you have Ted Cruz coming out here and saying that he's deeply concerned about what we are hearing about the quote Iran deal being pushed by some voices in this administration, President Trump's decision to strike Iran was the most consequential decision of his second term. He was right to do so, and we achieve extraordinary military results, including destroying all of their missiles and drones and sinking their entire navy. If the result of all of that is to be the Iranian regime still run by Islamists who chant death to America, now receiving billions of dollars, being able to enrich uranium and develop nuclear weapons and having effective control over the Strait of Hormuz, then that outcome would be a disastrous mistake. The details are still coming out, and I pray early reports are wrong, but the fact that Biden's Rob Malley is praising the deal is not encouraging. President Trump believes in peace through strength, and his strong leadership has already made America much safer. That should say suffer. He should continue to hold the line, defend America, and enforce red lines as he has reportedly drawn. So again, the war hawks are out on the Republican side, not happy with this apparent deal that does not look like a victory in the eyes of many people. That goes on here because Mike Pompeo had something to say, which Stephen Chung felt necessary to respond to. But this was Mike Pompeo's original post. He says the deal being floated with Iran seems straight out of the Wendy Sherman, Robert Malley, Ben Rhodes playbook. Pay the IRGC to build a weapon of mass destruction program and terrorize the world. Not remotely America first. It's straightforward. Open the damn strait. Deny Iran access to money. Take out enough Iranian capability so it cannot threaten our allies in the region. Overdue. Let's go. So again, these people are calling out the deal for being the disaster that it is, but from the opposite side, right? They want to see more death, more destruction. They want to see, more Iranians suffer. They really do want to see the entirety of the Iranian regime taken out. Like, this is what position they're coming at this from. So this isn't like, we're aligned on this whatsoever. They're accurately calling this out for being the disaster, not for the right reasons. But again, only to justify the ongoing escalation of this war in many, many cases. But again, like I said, Stephen Chung felt it necessary that he had to come out because he says Mike Pompeo has no idea, and Stephen Chung is Donald Trump's communications director or something along those lines. I forget at this point what his fat ass job title is, but Mike Pompeo has no idea what the fuck he's talking about. He should shut his stupid mouth and leave the real work to the professionals. He's not read into anything that's happening, so how would he know? And again, you don't have to be read into this, Stephen, you dumb prick, in order to figure out that this has been a complete and unmitigated disaster on so many different levels, on basically every front of this. But, this continues as well because the sycophancy just never ceases to amaze me, right? The years in which we've done this, the years in which we've covered these assholes, it still blows me away that they don't understand. They don't know that we know better than what they're saying. You got Speaker Mike Johnson here. It says President Trump is the only one who could have gotten Iran to the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism to the negotiating table. Like, what? Do you think that we forget the Obama-Iran deal? Like, do you think we forget the JCPOA? President Trump is the only one who could have gotten Iran, the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, to the negotiating table. Like, that's just complete and outright horseshit. Whether you agree with the deal, whether you like the deal, whether you're in favor of it or would like to see it, changed or scrapped or whatever, like, we are living on the same planet, right? We all can agree that that did happen. That's something that really did take place. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? We are greatly encouraged to learn a peace deal in Iran is underway and look forward to learning more about the specifics. Again, just the 47th time that they've put this out there. Under President Trump's leadership, our nation is stronger, more respected on the global stage, and safer than ever before. And then our Speaker of the fucking House, Mike Johnson, gets slapped with the community notes. Obama and other world leaders have been able to get Iran to the negotiating table. Pretty clear and concise, but a lot of people actually, let me see here, because there was a lot of people taking Mike Johnson to the cleaners over this. Midas Touch says this is embarrassing. Republicans against Trump. I had to double check. This wasn't a parody account. My God. Krasenstein. What's he say? Obama did this and actually got them to stop enriching uranium past 3.67 with inspectors on the ground. And then it goes on here. Is Johnson appallingly ignorant or just a liar? What does this first sentence even mean? Obama literally negotiated with Iran, whether you like the outcome or not. Exactly, right? King's in there says, what? Didn't Obama do that? Do you guys ever stress test these tweets before they go out? So again, just the sycophancy here by these assholes trying to in any way, again, pry a victory out of the jaws of defeat that we've seen in this disastrous and unmitigated disaster at this point. It's just, there's no way, shape, or form. And this is probably time. Let me throw this on here. I'll bring this over real quick, throw this on, because we can go side by side. We'll go side by side, right, with what we just heard. And again, I think there was a few other things that we could look at. I think, hold on, let me go to Trey Yingst here, because he might have some other updates. I'll throw that on before we go over that just real quick, see if he's got anything going on here just before we take that into consideration. That was an hour ago. If you have a final deal here, where then you don't have a final deal, senior administration official, our plan is to deal with all of their stockpile of the enriched uranium. Let's see here. Senior administration official says the Iran agreement will not be signed today, but indicated progress on a deal. If the Iranians will make significant accommodations on the enrichment question, then they will make significant accommodations on sanctions relief. On the nuclear issue, the plan is to deal with the entire stockpile of enriched material. If you don't, if you have a final deal where the Iranians are enriching, then you don't have a final deal. But I do believe here that there was also like a 30 to 60 day stance taken as well. The deal states that U.S. forces will stay in proximity of Iran for at least 30 days. We talked about that already in that one. But let me see here if I could go on to see where they detail that 30 to 60 days as far as the, I'll just type it in real quick. 30 to 60 days nuclear. Just so I can give you guys that detail on what's being reported as well. Let's see, yeah, was it the Kobe? Yeah, it might have been this one. Nope, that's May 23rd. Would that work? It says the U.S. and Iran are closing in on a deal that will extend their ceasefire by 60 days and lay the framework for discussions on Iran nuclear program. This would include a gradual reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. It would also include commitment to discussing diluting or handling over Iran's highly enriched uranium. The U.S. would ease its blockade of the Strait of Hormuz and agree to sanction relief. The U.S. would also begin phased unfreezing Iran's assets. Both sides are nearing a memorandum of understanding extended the ceasefire. Includes a ceasefire, maritime issues, and releasing frozen assets. Nuclear stuff comes in 30 to 60 days. So this is coming from Fars News. I think it was also reported by Tasnim News. So again, I just wanted to make sure. Let's go to Mario here, see if there's anything else being reported that we can talk to you about. Because I think he was the one that had that initial reporting that I saw, and then I remember. Let's see here. 12 channels lay out two remaining sticking points blocking the Iran deal. Israel is demanding a guaranteed right to strike threats in Lebanon. Iran refuses to include it. Iran wants its frozen assets released immediately. The U.S. refuses and insists on linking the release to the final nuclear agreement. The Lebanon clause and the money, those are the two things standing between a deal and no deal. And again, this is reported by Mario Newfall. What's his title here? Largest show on X, 24/7 News, investor, startups founder, IBC Group. So let's see here. Iran warns that the deal could collapse over frozen assets and unresolved issues. Looks like that's typically getting you guys up to speed and up to date, right? So like I said, it's a bunch of speculation and reporting, as you just heard there by one of the administration officials. Doesn't seem like a deal, if any, is in the works for real, is going to be signed today. It says Haggerty and Obama officials, Trump fails to secure a deal, yada, 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 propaganda. So I think that's pretty much it as far as that's concerned, right? The enriched uranium doesn't seem to be on the table as far as leaving Iran. Seems to me like they're saying, we want to end this. You guys give us our money, give us the money that it cost us to fight this war and for the damages that we've incurred and you guys have caused inside of our country. And then in the next 30 or 60 days, we'll make some kind of, consignments or concessions, I should say, about the nuclear aspect as to what those are going to be, whether it's diluting, whether it's just kind of lowering the enrichment level. Doesn't seem like at all, from what I've seen by any of the, the reports coming out from the Iranian side, that it seems like they're willing to ship out the entirety of their enriched, uranium to the United States, which is exactly what Donald Trump seems to be asking for. So again, this is not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm sure you guys are aware of that because of the amount of times that we've heard this amount of this bullshit and this thing, this same news being reported as well. But this is also being put out there. Let me throw that before we dive into again, talking about sycophancy. I forgot to put this on there. Check this out. So this is, again, talk about Mike Johnson going on and basically saying that Donald Trump is the only president that could make Iran come to the negotiating table, completely, rewriting history, as it were. Here's Stephen Chung again with this bullshit. It's 9:30 p.m. on a Saturday night, and President Trump is still in the Oval Office working hard for the American people. He's simply one of, and it's again, you can't read that without laughing, right? You can't read. The guy's falling asleep at every fucking interview, right? No matter where he is in front of cameras, if there's a microphone or a camera in front of his face, the guy is struggling to keep his eyes open. So the fact that, and then this is on top of his other post that he said President Trump is working at 8 p.m. Can't stop, won't stop. So then he comes out later, an hour and a half later, and says it's 9:30. He's still working. Like, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, would this country would be much better off if he wasn't. Like, if he just sat his fat ass on the golf course, would still be much better off. But he fucking can't even grace us with that much fucking, benefit. But it continues on here because this was being reported. We talked about Ted Cruz. We talked about Mike Pompeo. There was others as well, but I wasn't going to bore you with the amount of people that were out there kind of, bringing up this possible deal as being just an utter disgrace. So this is a post put out recently by Donald Trump that looks like he may be, responding to that pressure a little bit. This is Midas Touch. It says, following backlash over the leaked terms of Trump's Iran negotiations, Trump is now claiming he told his team not to rush a deal because time is on our side, right? Basically saying, I don't care that the American public and the rest of the world are feeling the pain of this. I'm ready to continue this at any cost, basically. Now he's feeling a little bit slighted because his own side's attacking him. It says, while once again attacking Obama, who actually managed to secure an Iran deal without starting a war or shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. And his little post goes on to read here. It says, one of the worst deals ever made by our country was the Iran nuclear deal, put forth and signed into existence by Barack Hussein Obama and the rank amateurs of the Obama administration. It was a direct path. It was a direct path to Iran developing a nuclear weapon. Not so with the transaction currently being negotiated with Iran by the Trump administration. The exact opposite, in fact. The negotiations are proceeding in an orderly and constructive manner, and I have informed my representatives not to rush into a deal, and that the time is on our side. The blockade will remain in full force and effect until an agreement is reached, certified, and signed. Both sides must take their time and get it right. There can be no mistakes. Our relationship with Iran is becoming much more professional and productive. Yeah, that's what you'd call it. I'm sure that's what you'd call it. Starving a population, bombing a population, fucking bombing girl schools. I'm sure it's becoming much more productive and cooperative. He goes on to talk about that they must understand, however, that they cannot develop or procure a nuclear weapon or bomb. I would like to thank thus far all of the countries of the Middle East for their support and cooperation, which will be further enhanced and strengthened by their joining the nations of the historic Abraham Accords, and who knows, perhaps the Islamic Republic of Iran would like to join as well. Thank you for your attention, yada yada, to this matter. So again, showing us almost like an unwillingness here to say that like the deals and the stipulations and the talking points that have been reported are what's actually in there, and that he's got no problem just continuing this, right? Continuing to keep the strait closed, continuing to see, people pay more for every single fucking item they need to live their daily lives here in this country. The same damage that he's doing to the Asian Pacific markets, the European markets, same thing. He's got no problem with that, because he's raking it in the background. He's suing his own government for billions. He's got slush fund being made for $2 billion here and there. He's got, crypto. He's got his cologne. He's got his watches. He's got his gold cell phones. He's all set. But, you guys and, you and I at the same time are going to have to pay that price. But this is kind of the difference that you get here, the difference in reporting. Sometimes it's like he's happy about a deal that's being possibly signed. Next thing you know, he's like, fuck it, I don't care. If we don't get a deal signed, we're just going to start lobbing bobs in there. It's like, well, which one is it, Chief? Because as he's posting that shit, he was also posting different memes about, kind of depicting him, kind of lobbing a missile or lobbing a bomb at Iran. And it's like not typically something you'd want to be posting as you're, I don't know, seemingly engaged in negotiations with that country. I don't know. But again, that's just kind of logically thinking in that regard. But before I do that, I'll recall, this is what Donald Trump has said before, and I think this was like halfway through April, if I'm recalling correctly, where Donald Trump said that no money will exchange hands. Right? He promised everybody we were going to get all of the enriched uranium, all of the nuclear dust, as he calls it, and that we were not going to exchange hands, any money, nothing. Not a dime would be paid by the United States to the Iranians in hopes to get a deal done, because we had all the power, we had all the leverage militarily, we had taken out their leaders, we had taken out their Navy, we had taken out their Air Force, we had done everything that we needed to do. Of course, we wouldn't have to pay. We wouldn't have to unfreeze their frozen assets, or we wouldn't have to pay, reparations for the damages that we caused in Iran, because that would be ridiculous for the victors to have to do, right? If you had all the power and all the leverage, you wouldn't then have to spend money to get some sort of agreement in this, would you? Well, that's what he was stating here. I believe this is halfway through of April of last month, where he stated this, if you'll recall.
This process should go very quickly, and that most of the points are already negotiated and agreed to. You'll be very happy. The USA will get all nuclear dust. You know what the nuclear dust is? That was that white powdery substance created by our B-2 bombers.
So I think you're thinking of what you found in Don Jr.'s coat pockets. That white powdery substance, I don't think that's the enriched uranium, sir. Did it come in like like the end of a baggie, right? Was it cut up a little bit, and was it like tied in a knot at the top of it? I'm just going to say, I don't think that was so much the enriched uranium that you found there, but, Donald Trump Jr.'s stash. But I'm speculating, of course.
Those great B-2 bombers, late one evening, 7 months ago, no money will exchange hands in any way, shape, or form.
No money will exchange hands in any way, shape, or form was his exact words. No money will exchange hands in any way, shape, or form. Now we're talking about $20 to $25 billion in frozen assets. God knows what price the Iranians put on the reparations that they're talking about. Clearly, the world has to respect the Iranians' control or ability to control the Strait of Hormuz going forward. So again, what is the benefit that we've seen here? He continues to talk about Obama and the JCPOA, but just a broad general overview of the JCPOA will show anybody, again, with two fucking brain cells to rattle together in their head, would recognize that we were much better off with this deal. Right, so the JCPOA, or the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, as it's alternately known as, commonly known as the Iran nuclear deal, is a landmark non-proliferation agreement reached on July 14, 2015, between Iran and P5+1, the powers: the United States, UK, France, China, Russia, and Germany, plus the European Union. Fundamental bargain of the deal required Iran to dismantle and significantly restrict its nuclear infrastructure in exchange for lifting of billions of dollars in international economic and financial sanctions, right? So we go on here. All you got to do is look at this real quick and you're like, oh yeah, we could definitely go back to that. And where we are now and what they're agreeing to isn't even remotely close to that. So it goes on to say that it capped the enriched uranium, said Iran agreed to limit its enriched uranium to 3.67%, suitable for civilian power, but far below the 90% needed for a weapon. Stockpile reductions. Iran's total stockpile of low enriched uranium was slashed by 98%, capped at just 300 kilograms. Centrifuge reductions. So the number of operational centrifuges was cut by 2/3, reducing them to 5,060 of Iran's oldest and least efficient IR-1 models. Repurposing facilities. The underground Fordo facility was banned from enriching uranium, and the Arak heavy water reactor was redesigned so it could not produce weapons-grade plutonium. Intrusive inspections, which is probably one of the things that you hear most about the JCPOA. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, was granted continuous, unprecedented access to monitor Iran's declared nuclear sites and track its entire supply chain. So when we talk about when it came out of the ground to when it's used in its final fucking established process, whatever it is, like they had the ability to put eyes on, cameras on, get, reports and details, right? Of course, was there ways in which we could improve upon this? Was there ways in which, people could argue that this or that thing was bad or could have been done better or it shouldn't have been in there in the first place? Of course. That's what fucking these deals are. That's with all deals like that. But to say that we could just throw this away and not have to put anything in its place, and then now what we're talking about that Donald Trump is ready to sign or potentially ready to sign, or it looks like the through line of Iran's asks and wants from this hasn't changed much. So if any deal is going to be signed, it's pretty clear to see that we were much better off before this with just the broad general overview of the JCPOA, right? I mean, it's just clearly because Barack Obama, a black man's name, was attached to that Donald Trump decided to throw that out, that he hates it, that he doesn't want to look at it ever again, and thinks that he could have a better resolution, he could come to some better agreement. Well, this is what we're left with. when you leave it to Donald Trump to, to come to some better agreement. He's got his health care plan coming in 2 weeks, right? And then we got here at the JCPOA, whatever deal he signs or doesn't sign, we've already seen the established damage he's done. And then no matter what, it seems like a deal that does come out of this is going to give Iran more power geopolitically, and we're going to be worse off than we were in this deal. So again, it doesn't take a genius. You don't have to be a nuclear fucking engineer, scientist, or physicist, right, to understand that this deal, the aspects of this deal, just the general overview, would be a much better resolution than where we are or where we're likely to be from any potential negotiated deal or peace resolution in this Iran war. It's just, again, it's been an unmitigated disaster. There's just kind of no way for people to rewrite that history at this point, as much as they continue to try to do that. But it's pretty impossible for that to happen. But along the same lines that this was coming out and the news of the possible deal and, Axios and Barack Ravid doing their little fucking two-step for Donald Trump again, getting everybody hyped up about a deal that may or may not come. And, Donald Trump's ready to sign a deal, but he also said, don't rush into a deal because, he could withstand the financial damage that's being done, even though many people in the country desperately cannot. We also had this shooting at the White House. Which seemed to be pretty ridiculous if you watch any of the film, if you watch any of the, the tapes, anybody that was recording at the time on White House grounds. This is just kind of a quick general kind of recap of what was taking place. That's not it, but this is right here. This is Secret Service, White House security checkpoint, shooter dies. So again, this is just kind of giving you and filling in some of the blanks on what was taking place. A lot of questions being raised as per the timing. Obviously, the victim himself. So again, you guys let me know what you guys think about this. Is this, just a clear indication of where we are in our time? The amount of people that are pissed off in this country, combined with the, the ease in which somebody could procure a high-powered weapon in this country. And this is because of this administration. Is it because of the affiliations and relationships with the Epstein class, the non-release of the Epstein files? Or again, is this something deeper and more kind of, darkly motivated to help support Donald Trump's ballroom theory? The fact that he's kind of, again, utilizing this fact to say that, this is more reason, this is more evidence as to why this billion-dollar bunker that he's building needs to be built. Again, I'm raising questions. I'm just asking questions, much like Tucker Carlson used to do. You guys let me know in the chat what you guys think. But again, this is just a quick 3-minute kind of recap on the information that we do know stemming from that White House shooting, which, you could hear something like 25 to 30 different shots fired off as well. I believe there was also an innocent bystander that was hit. Don't know if it's actually been kind of detailed yet, whether that was by the victim or that was by the return and fire by the Secret Service there. But let's see what we can get out of, what information we can get out of this quick update here.
Developing out of D.C. this morning, a shooting suspect killed by the Secret Service. He's accused of opening fire at a security checkpoint near the White House.
During this shooting, a bystander was hit. Local 10's Isabella Martin is in the newsroom with the latest. Isabella.
Well, Michaela, Leanne, it's unclear whether that bystander was struck by the suspect's initial gunfire or when the Secret Service fired back, but we do know the sound of gunfire was all caught on camera. You can hear the gunshots and see just how quickly authorities moved reporters away from the White House grounds. One reporter was actually in the middle of a live shot when the gunfire broke out. Take a look.
President Trump has said a deal is close.
And again, this is crazy because you can actually hear the crack, right? You can actually hear the sound of the bullet breaking the fucking sound barrier and cracking very close to wherever this reporter was making her kind of her statement here, giving her testimony. Because you can hear in the background. It's kind of difficult, but you can hear it.
Only for the two sides to remain far apart.
No. We have to.
You hear that just at the end of that? They're phew, phew. Those were very close. They were closer than they weren't close.
Evacuate shooting. We have to evacuate shooting. We have to evacuate shooting.
The shooting.
I'll replay it one more time. Just you can hear the snap kind of at the end, the very end of where she's hitting the ground here.
For the two sides to remain far apart.
No. We have to
those two. So that's, again, that just shows you how close these people came to to getting hit by whether it was the fire from the victim or the return fire from the Secret Service there trying to eliminate the victim remains to be seen. And obviously, there's going to be investigations done into that as well.
Shooting. We have to evacuate shooting. We have to evacuate shooting.
The shooting happened early Saturday evening just outside the White House. Authorities say the suspect, now identified as 21-year-old Nasir Best, walked up to a security checkpoint and started shooting at officers. Secret Service agents fired back, hitting the suspect. Investigators say this wasn't his first run-in with Secret Service. Back in June of 2025, he allegedly blocked an entry lane at the White House, claiming he was God. Then a month later, he reportedly tried to enter a White House complex driveway, and a judge ordered him to stay away from the White House grounds. He's also reportedly claimed to be the real Osama bin Laden. Reporters on the North Lawn were rushed to the White House briefing room, where they were told to shelter in place as Secret Service agents could be heard yelling for people to get down and warning that shots had been fired. The suspect.
So again, whether this is just a clear case of, a disturbed, a disturbed person with mental health issues, and obviously the ease in which you could access firearms in this country, or if it's again just the levels in which the people in this country are disgruntled, combined with the ease and access to firearms in this country, it's very clear that it's being utilized, it's being hopped on by this administration for again further evidence and declaring a need for this ballroom, this billion-dollar ballroom. So whatever it stems from, whatever the reasoning behind it, kind of shows the administration's willingness to utilize a bad situation for their benefit, to again go on and say that there's a need for the taxpayers in this country to foot the billion-dollar bill for this bunker that people are speculating Donald Trump's going to lock himself in the basement of before he'd ever remove himself from the White House. But this was going on around the same time, so I figured I'd bring you guys that. Obviously, it was one of the things, the major things reported as far as that was concerned. But, like I said, you guys let me know in the chat what you guys think. The one thing that is pretty plain and clear to see is, again, like I said, the administration's willingness to use any of these situations to their benefit. What was pretty scary, though, more scary than that, I think, is the quickness in which the Lego videos came out about this. I mean, I was still finding out about what was taking place on the White House grounds, and the Lego videos were already dropping. I mean, they were already out there, shots fired at the White House. This is Persia boy. This is a pretty quick one. I think he was trying to get it out there and on top of it while the news was breaking, as it were. But I was astonished at, again, the ease and the quickness in which they were able to get out these videos. So let's see if we can dive into this. Like I said, it's just a real quick one about the shooting at the White House, and then we'll go on into some of the details and the reporting from the heavy attacks that Kyiv suffered last night. Before we dive into that, a couple housekeeping notes to get into as well. But let's see if what was taking place here. Again, this is the Lego video, Persia boy Hamat with the shots at the White House, again, about 13 and a half seconds after it took place.
Yeah. Shots at the White House. Shots at the White House. Shots fired outside. 30 rounds in the night. Press going live. White House lockdown time. Something is cooking. You can feel it in the air. Netanyahu pulling strings. He wants this war, I swear. Reporters standing there doing the evening live. Suddenly shots ring out. Everybody died. Secret Service rushing panic on the lawn. Trump inside the building while the chaos is on. White House on lockdown. Counter snipers on the roof. Whole world watching. What the fuck is the truth? Timing feels crazy, but Iran on the brink. Bibi wants the war. That's what everybody thinks. Drums of war beating. We hear them.
And again, secondary note here beyond, kind of the instance, the topic that's being discussed here. But the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu would love to see this war persist, the fact that we've seen the ongoing attacks in Lebanon, what we're seeing in the West Bank, obviously the actions continuing in Gaza itself is come to be a big kind of sticking point. Again, we've talked about the Iranians. Every single point that they've come out and they've put together a 9 or 10 or 14-point plan, Lebanon and Israel's attacks on it has been part of that. So whether or not, Israel's going to play ball in this and allow this to continue, if in fact that is the path that we're on for whatever agreement to be signed is going to be signed, then, again, it's kind of a sticking point. Remains to be seen if, Netanyahu is going to allow that to happen anyways.
Loud and clear. We do not want war, but the choice ain't ours, my dear. Shots fired outside, 30 rounds in the night. Press going live, White House lockdown time. Sacred defense.
So again, like I said, that came out about 14 and a half seconds after the news broke that there was shots fired outside of the White House. But yeah, I was shocked. Again, I shouldn't be at this point, knowing what I know about the videos and how quick they are able to put those things out. But it was just I was astonished to see it get out at that point. But before we go on to our next topic, obviously the difficult night, to say the least, that Kyiv saw from the heavy Russian missile attack. Just a couple housekeeping notes. I just want to send some love, some support, some good vibes to our friend of the show, Major Ojeda. Major Ojeda had put out an announcement that he was in the hospital, was letting everybody know that it was okay. It would be some time, but just want to make sure that we do our part here to send our best, send our love, send our respect to the Major. Well wishes and W's in the chat to the Major, and if there's anything that we can do, anything that he needs as far as assistance, people helping out his channel, getting out messages, if there's any way in which we could be of some assistance, I'm sure he's not a regular viewer of the show, but anybody could pass this along to the Major and let him know if there's anything he needs. We're right here to help him. So yeah, again, shout out to the Major. Hopefully he gets better soon, and the quicker the better as far as that's concerned. And then also, before we dive into the news of the ongoing attacks that Kyiv was facing from this Russian missile attack, want to give love and shout out to our friend Philip Ittner, who is a resident of Kyiv. So hopefully Phil was okay. Hopefully somebody in the chat was able to get an update, a thumbs up from Phil that he managed to evade the Russian missiles that again were heavily impacting Kyiv overnight. This was widely reported. People like myself were up a big portion of the night looking at these strikes and kind of seeing the devastation at the hands of the Russians. That in case that did in fact no, I should say that was in fact reported or called or expected, right? So hopefully to some extent the fact that this was reported, expected, and even detailed by the Ukrainian intelligence, reported a little bit before the strikes. Hopefully that gave some of the Kyiv residents the ability to get into the shelters, and kind of obviously get out of harm's way, as it were. But this all stems from, well, not all stems from, but a lot of it, and the rhetoric from the Russians are saying that this is stemming from one of the Ukrainian attacks in Luhansk, which the Russians were trying to use as propaganda. Were trying to report like the Ukrainians had struck, I believe it was like a college dormitory, as the Russians were explaining. This was very strange for multiple reasons. One of which is that Ukraine is widely known for hitting justifiable military targets and not fighting this war like the Russians fight this war. Second aspect is this was in Luhansk, which is again Ukrainian territory, Ukraine's fucking homeland. So why they would have the need, what benefit they would see out of doing that is another big aspect of this. But another thing is that Vladimir Putin himself came out and spoke on this. I mean, we saw multiple strikes within Moscow. We've continued to see multiple devastating strikes all throughout Russia that Vladimir Putin has not come out and made a statement on, made comment on, but he did make comment on this one, vowed, retaliation for that strike. So again, just to kind of get everybody up to speed, I figured we'd kind of touch base on what was happening during that strike, not that, but this one. And I found this one out there. This is from Combat Veteran News, and it says, is Putin running a false flag attack in Luhansk? And I believe this is kind of accurately depicted. I think he kind of gives an accurate representation of what the options might possibly be as far as what took place. Again, we know that the Russians are pretty, technologically advanced as far as drone jamming is concerned. So it is not out of the realm of possibility that the drones were either jammed or taken over in entirety, their capabilities, and they were controlled and kind of instructed or, I don't know what you'd say, driven into these spots so they could utilize this propaganda. But again, that's not out of the realm of possibility. We know that, drones get shot down, remnants kind of hits different places that obviously was not the intended target. So there's multiple aspects, multiple possibilities into this. But I just think, this is probably the best place to start before we dive into some of the destruction and obviously the video coming in from last night's Russian missile attack in Kyiv and surrounding region. So what do you say we start here? I appreciate you guys for coming here for your Ukraine news. It is definitely something that is on the hearts and minds of me, of people here in this chat. We're very, very passionate about the support for Ukraine. So thank you guys for everybody that's fighting alongside with us. And like I said, I just figured it would give an update here as to the rhetoric coming from Russia and obviously what they're trying to say that last night's strike were heavily influenced by. So just to keep everybody on the same page, let's see if we can fly into this real quick. Like I said, credit where credit is due. This is Combat Veteran News, about 480,000 subscribers here on YouTube, titled, "Is Putin Running a False Flag Attack in Luhansk?"
Is Vladimir Putin preparing a false flag attack to expand the war in Ukraine? It seems like he's up to something strange, and we're going to break it down right now. So you may have noticed, kind of buried in the headlines, that Russia has accused Ukraine of targeting a college dormitory housing students between 14 and 18 years old in Luhansk at the Luhansk Pedagogical University in Starobelsk. And this is according to Russia's Human Rights Commissioner. They claimed that this strike happened on May 22nd and that 35 children were injured in the strike. Now, of course, Ukraine has denied this, saying that while they struck a number of Russian targets, these were oil refineries, ammunition depots, air defense systems, and command posts, as well as the headquarters of Moscow's elite drone unit known as Rubicon. Those were the targets hit in the Starobelsk area. And I think this is a really...
So again, just to reiterate, obviously Ukraine denies the reporting coming out of Moscow, coming out of the Kremlin, that this was a targeted strike on a dormitory there, giving clear indication that they had specific military targets picked out in the region, but this was not one of them. And again, that kind of opens the door to the options that we have to look at as to what may have taken place, and obviously why this is being utilized or trying to be utilized by the Russians for the propaganda effect. So again, I think he does a good job here at a few points at kind of giving us certain options and what it may entail and what may be going on in this.
I mean, interesting claim by Russia, we'll say. But what is more interesting is the Russian reaction to this. So we're going to take a look first at what probably, or I suspect, really happened. And then we're going to talk about what is the Russian game that they're playing here, the propaganda game. Now, before we get into that, I want to mention, guys, that, of course, we are helping Ukrainian drone units expand their operations here. And if you are interested in helping out some of Ukraine's best units with the life-saving equipment that they need, well, we've got a fundraiser. We're working with Ukraine.
So again, a lot of respect and shout out to anybody willing to take time and use their channel to again promote these fundraisers and anything going to help the Ukrainian military or civilian population. But for the sake of time here, I'm just going to skip his little infomercial that he does. But again, big shout out and a lot of respect to anybody that does utilize their platform for any of those fundraisers as well. But this is where he kind of gives his 2 cents and the options and what may have likely taken place here and why Russia is trying to utilize this for propaganda factors.
So first, I want to talk about what I suspect happened. Now, the Ukrainians, not just because they have a moral superiority here, but they do not target war crime level infrastructure, certainly not schools or hospitals. Their targets almost always have a legitimate military purpose. These expand sometimes to include, for example, oil refineries, which are used directly and controlled by state industries to fund the Russian military. It's a direct tie. But they never target, for example, civilian power plants or water treatment facilities. What we do know is that Russia has demonstrated that they have expanded and improved on their spoofing counter-drone technologies. For example, as we've
So spoofing, he means basically taking over the use of the drone and basically taking over control, right? So how people would spoof somebody's phone number, right? So you guys, I don't know if it's still taking place to what degree it used to, but you'd probably get a phone call from a number that looks very familiar, looks like either a friend or an associate's phone number, or has the the correlated area code to somebody that you'd typically respond to, and then it wouldn't be that person, right? It would say it would be on the caller ID, and it would be somebody else using that phone number and trying to either scam you or whatever it may be that they were trying to do. Well, same thing here. The Russians have had pretty good advantage advancements as far as obviously the drone jamming, but obviously spoofing, which is, you know, having the ability to control that drone and maneuver it to where they want it to go as well, which is obviously something that you'll have to look at, where the Russians may be likely to, you know, take over a drone, fly it into a civilian populated area, and then say, hey, look at what the Ukrainians did. Here's this Ukrainian drone that struck an apartment complex or a building or a hospital or a school, right? That's definitely not out of the realm of possibility for the Russians. So obviously that has to be put into the list of options here. And again, I'm not sure if there may be even some further reporting and confirmation coming out from this. But again, the latest that I've seen, I'm giving to you right here.
The Ukrainian drone was hijacked by Russians and flown into a Latvian oil refinery. Now, we know this because, well, the Ukrainians themselves have absolutely no reason to target one of their staunchest allies' oil refineries, but the Russians certainly do. And we've also
same thing
seen
in Luhansk. Same thing in Luhansk. Why would they want to attack, again, their own territory, people that are living under Russian occupation but are Ukrainians? Why would they have, what benefit would they see? Again, there's no military justification. There's no military benefit that they see. Again, raises many questions as to, why the Russians, especially Vladimir Putin, are using this so heavily. You always have to look into the background when the Russians are putting something out there, when they're saying something. It's typically, if not the complete and total opposite, just completely fabricated outright.
the same thing happened as Ukrainian drones flying towards Moscow get spoofed and sent into Estonia. Likely what happens is that these drones rely on GPS navigation, and if you can
leave the trolls, let the trolls be, Trolls mean we're reaching other people, okay? I know it's frustrating in the chat. You can block them in the chat. You can mute them in the chat if you don't like what they're saying, but let the trolls be, again, unless they're being bigoted, racist, homophobic, threatening, doxing people, right? We could utilize their voice in there. We could utilize their comments for the algorithm. So let them be, let them spew their bullshit. Again, make them defend their stance, ask them questions, make them call that out, right? Tell them how wrong they are. That's another way in which we could deal with the trolls in the chat, but I do appreciate all the trolls in there. Thank you. It means we're kind of reaching a broader base, which is a good thing. So thank you, but my apologies to the mods. I'm sure it's a lot more difficult for you guys, but you guys can handle it. I know I'm blessed with the best mods on the planet, so no better place for me to be here than right there. I appreciate it.
Thwart the GPS navigation and tell them that they are somewhere they are not. You can steer the drone into where you want. If let's say the drone's target is Moscow, well, if you simply spoof the GPS and say that making a hard left turn and traveling for 400 miles will take you to Moscow, the drone will do that. The only problem is reality might mean that the drone is actually flying to Sweden or Estonia or Latvia. And so, given that Russia has done this already twice in the last 2 weeks and has done so with a wild level of precision, again, targeting a specific oil refinery in Latvia, it's no surprise to see.
So he's saying basically the likelihood that the Russians were able to, again, implement some sort of, I don't know, I'm no, technological expert here, but some sort of malware or some sort of alternate information as to, coordinates that this drone was going to, implemented their own coordinates to where they wanted it to strike. Again, being able to thus utilize the propaganda aspect of this, which is, again, something you got to look at when there's multiple targets hit inside of Moscow. Vladimir Putin doesn't say a fucking thing, doesn't get out in front of a camera, doesn't get out in front of a microphone, doesn't make a statement, a message, nothing like that. But then all of a sudden is going to rush out and make a statement and vow retaliation for this strike there. It kind of, begs the question as to what's really going on behind the scenes. But, I just wanted to kind of touch base on that just to give everybody the backstory in case you've heard rumors or kind of people, the mumblings of what was taking place or Vladimir Putin's statements on that in general being reported on, that at least you guys know what specifically was being referenced in that case. But here is an accurate depiction here of the night that the people in Kyiv had seen. This is a pretty clear representation of the drone and missile flight path. This is put out by Noel Reports, trajectory of Russian missiles and drones during a large-scale overnight attack on Ukraine. Main focus was Kyiv and its surrounding region, although we'd be remiss to obviously report on the fact that multiple areas were hit inside of Ukraine. But you can see here a pretty clear depiction as to where the main focus was. A lot of the main hits in and around Kyiv, coming from north, obviously east here. Different impacts all around Ukraine, as you can see as well. But you can see these are the Shaheds. So Shahed launch here, Shahed launch here, Shahed launch, Shahed launch, Shahed launches, I should say, all around this region. And then here you can see the the missiles that were launched. So you can see these ones in blue, these ones in orange here, and then these different munitions that were launched up there north of Kyiv as well. So definitely a very difficult night for the Ukrainians in Kyiv. And all around, here's just kind of some video footage coming in from the from the missile impacts that they were seeing. This is Russians continue to bomb evangelical churches in Ukraine. The time in the city of Balaklia, Kharkiv region, the church, the Light of Gospel. Again, here's just one of the many pieces of video footage that are coming in from the terrible, terrible night from the Russian missile attacks that was seen in and around Kyiv.
Наша церква, світло Євангелія, горить 1200 квадратних метрів, повністю в вогні.
So again, this means that Caroline Levitt should be out in front of the podium or cameras in about, what, 35 seconds, demanding some accountability for the attack on Christians, right? Isn't that how they play now? Like if there's an attack on Christians anywhere in the world, it's supposed to be, KKK, Caroline Levitt, and Trump coming to their rescue. Somehow I believe they'll remain quiet as far as this one is concerned. Again, if the United States president had any fucking balls whatsoever, if he knew how to grow a pair of balls, right, as we tell him.
Here's a thought: grow a sack, fill it with some balls.
But he can't do that. He would put pressure on the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, to cease this ridiculous war that he is absolutely not winning in any respect. But let's see here if we can go on and see if there's any other footage. There was this one here, Mario Newfall. Russia launched its largest missile barrage of the war on Ukraine overnight. At least 111 missiles fired at Kyiv and targets across the country. 2 Arishnik hypersonic IRBMs. Launched at Kaputsin Yar, the first combat use of this system at scale. 5 Kinzhal hypersonic missiles, 6 Zircon hypersonic cruise missiles, 20 KH-101s, 18 Kalibrs, the 30-plus Iskander ballistic missiles and cruise missiles. Primary targets were Kyiv defense industrial plants, including the Artem weapons factory, the SBU offices in multiple industrial zones. Ukrainian air defenses intercepted at least 24 missiles. Additional strikes hit Khmelnytsky, Odessa, and Dnipro, Poltava, and Zhytomyr. Russia retaliated for Ukraine's dormitory strike in and around Starobilsk. So again, I knew that was going to be something talked about, and you guys were probably going to question what that meant, so which is why we started where we started. But you can see here the scale and the level of the attack. The 2 Arishnik hypersonic IRBMs launched at the Kaputsin Yar, the first combat use of this system at scale. As you can see, the Kinzhals, the Zircons, the Calibers there, the Iskanders. Here's some of the footage coming in from Kyiv as well. See if we can take a look at this. So again, what looks to be a pretty substantial strike. I know there was reports of an ammo depot that was struck as well. Kind of what footage is coming from what strike is hard to figure out and hard to detail at this point. Maybe it might be detailed in some of these further reports that we see here, but obviously a devastating strike, a devastating impact, as you can see here by the flames in the background. See here, there's some other ones. There's another one here from the what looks to be the industrial zone. It's I mean, again, this is just an absolute fucking shame to see to continue to happen here. This war that should have never taken place in the fucking first, from the jump. But to see places, and there's footage of the McDonald's that I was basically living at for the time that I was in Kyiv, the mall that so many people that visit Kyiv frequent, being struck, being damaged. Different government buildings in Kyiv being damaged that, people, again, if you've been, fortunate enough to be or visit Kyiv, that you've probably frequented, that you've probably seen. So again, it is it's difficult for everybody to take this in, especially with the levels of damage that we're seeing here. I think there was a round, and it may have changed since then, obviously, as they sift through the damage and stuff. But I believe there was something around, I think, 4 or more people killed in these attacks. I'll see if I can pull that number up again, because I know that's changed a few times. But let's see here, this one. So again, damage from one of the Russian strikes. Here's again a pretty accurate depiction of the launches from the Russians and where they were targeting. Obviously, more or less going at Kyiv. Let's see here. This is a statement by Volodymyr Zelenskyy about what happened last night. So I figured we could play this for you guys as well. It's been translated on the bottom. I could probably read it out for you guys, for anybody that's just listening. So we'll go over this real quick.
Шановні українці, сьогодні від ночі
So it says, since last night, first responders and all necessary services
всюди, де потрібно, працюють рятувальники та необхідні
have been working wherever needed.
служби. Всім, хто був поранений,
Everyone wounded in the strike will receive
цим
assistance.
ударом буде надано допомогу. Це наш
This is our duty, and the state will fulfill it.
обов'язок, і держава його виконає. Я вдячний кожному і кожній, хто працює
I am grateful to each and every person
на
working on the
місцях після
ground
ударів,
after the strikes to help our people.
щоб допомогти нашим людям. Зараз
As of now, at least 83
відомо, що
people
постраждало щонайменше 83
have been confirmed injured since midnight.
людини від початку доби. На жаль, є
Tragically, there are fatalities.
загиблі. Мої співчуття рідним та близьким. Важкий
Says, my condolences to the family and loved ones. It was a heavy attack, 90 missiles of various types.
був удар ракет різних типів 90, із них багато
Many of them ballistic missiles, 36 in total.
балістики 36, 600 дронів.
There were 600 drones, and I think, as has been reported, the downing rate from the Ukrainians was kind of right in line with the 90 or so % of drones that were shot down. But unfortunately, I think because of the difficulty of shooting down these ballistic missiles, and obviously, new missiles in general, I think that was down to about 40%. Or 40% were managed to get through. I think they were able to shoot down about 60% of them. But again, that just kind of shows a very big area in which the Ukrainians need vastly more help and assistance. This long in intercontinental, the IRBM missiles and these new age missiles and the defenses to those. The $400 million that the United States seemingly has and hasn't released, that Pete Hegseth was questioned, might be, a little assistance, we could say here, that should have been sent over to Ukraine to help in some way, shape, or form. Not saying it could have, prevented or done anything to stop this attack, but anything helps at this point, right? Any fucking thing helps. And of course, $400 million could be a big assistance to a group, a unit, the army in general, whatever it may be. But the United States is deciding to sit on that, again, as the Ukrainians are facing these attacks on a nightly basis from the Russians.
Жаль, не всю балістику вдалося
Because unfortunately, not all the ballistic missiles were intercepted.
Найбільше
The largest number of hits was in Kyiv.
влучань у Києві, і саме Київ був основною мішенью
Kyiv was the primary target of this Russian
цієї
attack.
російської атаки. Путін вже і слово «ура»
Putin can't even pronounce the word hurrah clearly anymore.
не може нормально вимовити, шамкає, а
Slurs and mumbles, yet he is still vanquishing
все ще своїми ракетами перемагає
residential buildings with his missiles.
житлові будинки. 3 російські ракети проти об'єкта
Launched 3 Russian missiles against a water supply factory.
водопостачання, спалив ринок, десятки
Burned down a market, damaged dozens of residential buildings,
житлових будинків пошкодив, кілька
hit several ordinary schools,
звичайних шкіл, запустив свій арієр
launched his Arishnik against Bielotsurtka.
проти Білої церкви. Ну реально неадеквати.
They really are unhinged.
Важливо, щоб це для Росії не залишалося
Said it is really important that this does not pass without consequences for Russia.
без наслідків. Сьогодні кожен у світі, хто не промовчить, хто
Today, everybody in the world who will not stay silent and chooses to help Ukraine is a defender of life.
допомагатиме Україні, є захисником життя. Дуже важливо продовжувати
It is critically important to continue working for secure air defenses.
працювати, щоб було ППО для України,
Ukraine, especially anti-ballistic capabilities.
зокрема проти балістики. Мати Росію
Having Russia next door is a constant threat, and our people
поруч – це постійна загроза Наші люди в Україні цю
We'll hold that threat back and are stopping it.
загрозу стримують і зупиняють, але світу варто чітко бачити, з ким маєте справу. 5-й рік
But the world should clearly see who it is dealing with. This is the 5th year of the full-scale war.
повномасштабної війни. І від перших секунд це не
And from its very seconds, it has been Russia's unprovoked
спровокована терористична війна Росії проти
terrorist war against life.
життя. Ми робимо все, щоб встановити мир і захистити людей.
We are doing our best to achieve peace and to protect people, everything.
Все. І важливо, щоб Україна
It
була
is important that Ukraine is not alone.
не наодинці. Потрібні рішення
Decisions are needed from the United
і
States,
від Сполучених Штатів Америки, і від
from
Європи,
Europe, and to others to make that old Arishnik in Moscow
і від інших, щоб цей старий Арішник в Москві вимовив слово
finally utter the words peace.
мир. Дякую всім, хто допомагає.
Thank you to everybody who is helping.
Слава Україні!
Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava, right back at you. So again, just a statement from Zelenskyy on some of the strikes and damages since last night. Let's see if there's anything else here that we could see that we missed. That was the footage that we saw in one of the other ones. Here's the one from Bielorussia. This is a missile worth tens of millions of dollars, destroyed private garages. Again, here's a little bit of the destruction. Looks to me like a big waste of millions of dollars for little benefit that the Russians saw from this strike. So again, that's just some other footage there coming in. Let's see here. Russia's unleashed another large-scale attack on Kyiv overnight using a mix of ballistic missiles, including Zircon cruise missiles, Shahed drones, decoy UAVs, and even, as reported, Arishnik launches an attempt to overwhelm Ukraine's air defense networks. Explosion echoed across the capital for hours as Ukrainian air defenses engaged wave after wave of incoming threats. Fires, damages, and civilian casualties have again been reported. No regards for civilians yet again, which is standard as Putin spends billions terrorizing families while apartment blocks and homes continue to be hit. And this looks like some footage coming from a security cam here. Again, all different footage coming in from this. Here's another one. The building of Land Forces Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in Kyiv turned into rubble after night strikes. The neighboring building of the Armed Forces of Ukraine Support Forces Command was also heavily damaged. Here's footage coming out from that.
Ярик, КСВ.
So again, showing damage from the Russian attack overnight there. Let's see if there's anything else. I think there was a couple here there was another one coming in. This is Russia strikes Kyiv with ballistic missiles. The Russian Ministry of Defense announced that it had conducted a large-scale operation in response to Ukraine's attacks on civilian targets inside Russia. According to a statement, Arishnik, Iskander, Kinzhal, and Zircon missiles, as well as air, land, and sea-based cruise missiles and kamikaze UAVs were used. Here's one of those videos coming out from the strikes. I mean, you can see the Golden Dome glinting just right here next to me. So again, just more footage coming in from that. I'm sure we'll be seeing that a few more times as we go on here. That was the one we saw from the ministry there. Let's see if there's anything else that we missed as far as these attacks were concerned before we go on. I know there was this one as well that I wanted to dive into. There was a few from Kate from Kyiv, Anna from Ukraine. So again, just to kind of give everybody filled in, this is Anna from Ukraine here reposting Maria Avdiva. Hellish night in Kyiv. Didn't know if I'd wake up. When there's nothing on the battlefield, Russia wages war on market stalls and apartment blocks, murdering people in their sleep. Here's a little bit coming out from that. Again, just footage from that substantial strike there. This is from Jay in Kyiv. The Russians spent over $1 billion from their collapsing budget to target some apartment buildings and a couple McDonald's in Kyiv. Again, this is what I was talking about, the Kyiv that basically kept me alive while I was in Ukraine there at that one. So definitely know that one. And there was other aspects that people will definitely recognize. The mall in the background there. Obviously, you can see the McDonald's sign in there, broken glass on the street. But again, absolutely no objective there that you can see from the Russians as to why they would be striking, again, a McDonald's or that mall there, other than just to terrorize the civilian population. Here's a couple others from that as well. This is from Kyiv, the city of courage. It says this may be the most infernal night in Kyiv since the start of the full-scale war. Dozens of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, hypersonic missiles, and drones attacking the capital nonstop. Explosions are so loud that the ground is shaking. Just praying that everyone sees the sunrise alive and safe. See, here's another one. Again, the very large impacts being heard in the background, as you can see. Again, just kind of going over some of the footage and videos coming in, information coming in from last night's strike, seeing if there's anything else that we could detail. Obviously, there were other strikes carried out by the Ukrainians as well, which we'll get into. Let's see here. I think that was all on that one. What about this one real quick? This was from the Kyiv Independent. See if there's anything here about the toll that has risen or any other information that we could go over as well. This was one of the prominent pieces of footage coming out from this one. This was an eyewitness footage captures the moment a Russian missile strike on Kyiv. May 24th, Russia launched a massive combined attack overnight, deploying 90 missiles and 600 drones that primarily targeted the capital. The devastating overnight assault marks one of the largest mass attacks on Ukraine over the last year. And again, here's some of those pieces of footage coming in. Christ. That's crazy. Play that one again. Check this out. Jesus. There's the compilation there from the Kyiv Independent. See if there's anything else here. Russia launched Arishnik missiles. This is really insane. It's important that they didn't go they don't go unpunished for Russia, says Zelenskyy. Let's see here. Drone attack kills 2, injures over 80. The number of casualties from Russia's overnight missile drone attack on Kyiv and surrounding region has risen to 2 dead. I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, obviously in the chat, but I do believe that I heard as high as 4 being reported before I came on air. So again, let me know. Let me know in the chat. Let's see there. So it says here, Russian forces launched large-scale combined attack on Kyiv overnight. Some more footage coming in from that.
Yes.
Going on here, see if there's anything else that we have to catch up on. think there was one other one that I wanted to see here. Multiple explosions heard in Kyiv. Odessa, Kharkiv blast drones as rock. Oh, here it is right here. So Zelenskyy warns of possible Russian Arishnik missile attack, right? So I'm hoping that this gave at least some people the ability to kind of get to a shelter or get to their safe spot, whatever their safe spot may be, if that's the basement in the building or whatever. But again, this is citing Ukrainian and Western intelligence reports. Volodymyr Zelenskyy said Russia appeared to be preparing an Arishnik missile strike on Ukraine. So again, just showing that they did have the intelligence to see this coming, at least prior to the strike. Again, like I said, hopefully, Lord willing, giving people the ability to get into, a safe place as far as that was concerned. But there was some other details to throw in here. Let me put this one on because this is Preston Stewart came out with an update basically detailing some of what we were going over. So I just want to see if there's anything that we missed, any other details that we need to cover, any other updates that may have come out since the time that, I put the show together this morning. Again, so this is Preston Stewart. Overnight attack shows critical Ukraine shortage. And obviously it's going to detail the necessity, the need for Ukraine to have, again, these ballistic missile defense systems in place. People supplying those, whether it's the United States, UK, France, Germany, whoever it may be, but they're going to have to step up. The allies are going to have to step up, sending these ballistic missile defense systems to Ukraine for reasons just like this. Because again, we're going to have to start seeing a substantial amount more of these missiles taken out if we want to help keep the Ukrainian people safe and, again, mitigate damages that we saw, much like we saw last night in and around Kyiv as well. So, again, Preston Stewart just giving us an update if there's anything else that we missed. And I think there's a professor video detailing some of the attacks by Ukraine as well. So we try to keep everything down to earth here. So, if devastating things happen, we're going to report on those. If good things happen, we're going to report on those. If it's losses, they're going to get reported. If it's victories, they're going to get reported. So, some people may not report this on their channels. They may look at it just like, the Ukrainians are winning everything and there's no, devastating effect on the other end or the other side being happened. But that's not what we're going to do. We're going to keep people grounded. We're going to report things as they're happening. Again, good, bad, or indifferent, but we're also going to make sure that this isn't a lopsided report detailing just the Russians' ability to strike Ukraine, but also that even under these devastating attacks, Ukraine still had the ability to make Russia feel the pain in different spots, in different aspects of their either occupied or Russian territory themselves. I'll see if I can find that in the background while this is playing again. Slava Ukraine, Heroyam Slava. To anybody, again, that was under the threat of drone or missile attack last night, hopefully you made it out well. Hopefully you were able to get to a safe place, your friends, your family, your neighbors, your loved ones, all of the above. And again, anybody that's friendly with the show, obviously Philip Bittner, on our minds here as well. So hopefully everything is okay with the people that we know and love over there. So what do you say we dive into this? Just again, a little bit more detail, a little bit more information about what took place. And again, the necessity for, upgraded and more substantial ballistic, air defenses for the Ukrainians here.
So overnight, Russia launched a massive drone and missile attack into Ukraine. And the damage coming out this morning is pretty significant. And it does highlight a major issue for Ukraine, a shortage of ballistic missile defense. Now, for the third time ever, Russia used their nuclear-capable Arishnik intermediate-range ballistic missile in what the Kremlin says was a retaliatory strike.
And again, I heard before we came on to start this show that, again, these nuclear-capable Arishniks were loaded with, I believe it was reported, something around 50 kgs for a warhead, which is, again, around roughly what a Shahed drone could carry as well. So it was kind of like like a symbol, a signal by the Russians, if you will. Like, okay, we put 50 kilograms in them at this point. And again, I don't know if this is all of the reported missiles or just a few of them. I did see, a military report coming out that they put somewhere in the range of 50 kgs in some of them, basically to send a message saying that, hey, we have the ability to put, bigger and more substantial warheads and obviously nuclear capabilities on this. We didn't this time, but just beware type of thing. So I saw that also talked about before I came on as well, but I couldn't confirm or corroborate that. So take it with a grain of salt as far as that's been reported as well.
What they claim was a Ukrainian attack on a school earlier this week in Luhansk. Now, the details on that one are still a little murky, to say the least, but we'll get into what we know so far. But stick around to the end of today's video because we've got a video from Apo. Call sign Apo, he's a Ukrainian soldier, made a video for you all to show how they're using unmanned
This
ground
is
vehicles.
pretty cool. This is pretty cool. This is basically a direct video from a soldier on the front detailing how they utilize the machines, the equipments, and all of the fundraiser dollars basically handed to them or given to them, afforded to them by different fundraisers that Preston's been involved in. So it's pretty cool one-to-one video that he gets, but not the basis for the video itself.
Those at the front right now, kind of a unique look from a soldier's perspective of how this new technology is affecting the fight. Now, starting out, the Kyiv Independent says Russian forces launched a large-scale combined missile and drone attack overnight on May 24th, targeting mainly Kyiv and the surrounding region. As of this report, my understanding is that 4 people have been killed and more than 100 wounded. Now, this attack was anticipated. Warnings went out. I think it was yesterday afternoon, a few hours before the missiles were even launched. The U.S. State Department issued a warning. So hopefully that notice allowed enough Ukrainian citizens and civilians to find shelter before the drones and the missiles started impacting throughout the country. Now, the Ukrainian Air Force says a total of 690 munitions were launched. That roughly tracks what we've seen from Russia. I did not see an exact number put out by the Russian Ministry of Defense. Ukraine says that's 90 missiles and 600 drones. That's one night of attacks. That is a huge number, right? Again, a couple days, or I think it was a week or so ago, we saw about 750 launched in one night. 690 with 90 missiles is a problem for Ukraine. Now, according to preliminary data, they say that they were able to intercept 55 out of 90 missiles and 549 out of 600 drones. That, roughly 90% interception rate for drones is kind of to be expected. We've seen that from Ukraine in recent months. But the 60% interception rate against missiles is a real problem. And we've also seen that in recent months. It is harder to shoot down more advanced missiles than it is some of these long-range, relatively low-cost drones. Ukraine has figured out the low end of the cost curve here. They've developed a number of interceptors. They've got helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft overhead. There's mobile ground teams, all pretty effective at shooting down these Shahed-style drones. So 90% generally tracks with what we've seen. Missiles are a different beast. Now, in Ukraine's benefit here, Russia cannot produce as many missiles or nearly as fast as they can drones. They're a lot more expensive. A lot more goes into manufacturing those. But 60% defense against missiles is leaving a lot of munitions to come through and strike targets in Ukraine. Now, this isn't just a Ukraine thing. We're seeing the debate right now in the United States. Do we have enough Patriot interceptors? Do we have enough THAADs? And the one of the downstream effects of that is if we don't have enough, or we're trying to produce.
I think that's been a huge discussion all over the place, right? I mean, we heard very early on in the Iran war that the Middle East allies that we had were very worried about the level of interceptors that they had. Added in that the United States was very worried about the THAAD and Patriot interceptors that they had, or the stockpiles that they had, again, drawn down to a very unstable or dangerous level, considering what they normally like to see our stockpiles at. So, obviously this is a huge point of contention here, and the fact that the allies, the Ukrainian allies, are kind of behind on this and kind of getting in front of whatever capabilities the Russians have is something that we need to pick up we need to get the ball rolling on and get some momentum over there and make sure that we have the systems in place. The Ukrainians have the systems in place to make sure that we can again bump that 60% number up, where we don't want 40% of all fucking cruise missiles lobbed at any positions in Ukraine to get through. Want to make sure that we get that substantially up as far as the amount that we're allowed to intercept or possible to intercept as well. So, it would be very prudent upon the allies, the Ukrainian allies, to make sure they put their heads together to make sure that they could send together, a weapons package and age package that includes this, these ballistic missile defense capabilities.
More, you can be sure that countries like Ukraine trying to purchase those from us are not going to have nearly as many as they need right now. Now, the Russian Ministry of Defense put out a statement saying, quote, in response to Ukraine's terrorist attacks on civilian targets on Russian territory, the armed forces of the Russian Federation have launched a massive strike against military command facilities, air bases, and defense industrial complex enterprises in Ukraine. They say the strike objectives have been achieved and all designated targets have been hit. They added, no strikes were planned or carried out against civilian infrastructure targets in Ukraine. Now, we've seen a number of what appear to be pretty clearly civilian infrastructure having been hit in Ukraine. There's always the possibility that it was a partial interception, but there's a lot of shopping centers and residential facilities appear to have been hit in this wave overnight. Now, Russia, we knew that something like this was coming because 2 days ago, Russia announced that a school was hit in Luhansk that resulted in the death of, I think, 21 people at this point. We do have a list of that. So I held off reporting about that strike at the time it came out because almost immediately we saw this reaction inside of Russia that we haven't really seen in a while. Putin addressed it. personally and said, we will be responding. He asked the Ministry of Defense to come up with an adequate response. So rather than get into what we knew at that point, I thought we'd just give it a couple days and we're likely to see the Russian response. And here we are. So after the attack, we have some footage and some pictures from this strike. The head of the LNR said, quote, so the Luhansk People's Republic said, a tragedy occurred tonight. And I should stress, this is Luhansk is Ukrainian territory. This is Russian occupation.
He's even recognizing here kind of the oddity of the president Vladimir Putin coming out and speaking specifically about this potential, or what they're accusing of being a strike there on a dormitory, a college dormitory. But you can see that anybody that reports on this war is kind of like, well, why wouldn't Putin speak up against all of these other strikes? Why hasn't he said anything about here? Like clearly, raising red flags, raising alarm bells here as to kind of what the intent is, kind of how this was being utilized and who may be behind it to begin with. So you can see here, this is the same thing that I wanted to fill everybody up on beforehand, before we talked about the strikes last night, just to make sure that we were doing things in the correct timeline.
Occupied territory of Ukraine. So these are Russian officials in Ukrainian occupied territory, or in the occupied territories of Ukraine. The head of the LNR said, quote, a tragedy occurred tonight. The Ukrainian armed forces deliberately attacked sleeping, defenseless children. Enemy drones attacked the educational building and dormitory of the Starbelt.
And again, this is the propaganda. This is the statements coming out from the Russian side, trying to again play this up, make it seem like it was intentional, and again using this for the propaganda purposes that we know Russia loves to utilize in this effect. Again, even though we all know the hypocrisy of Russia calling out anybody for striking civilian targets, especially again as we just saw it last night, is exactly what they target, is exactly what they intend to hit with their strikes in the first fucking place, is asinine. But this is not stopping them from trying to use this for propaganda purposes to again try to get some sort of victory or win out of this.
College.
Or again, justification for ongoing strikes, right? To use this as, okay, this is the reason we're now using our ballistic missiles now against Kyiv. So again, if this wasn't it, you can see that they wouldn't have really the justification, even though it wouldn't stop them from doing it and hasn't stopped them from doing it. This kind of makes them, they feel a lot safer. They feel like they're a lot more justified and solidified in their strikes if, again, they have something like this to utilize for propaganda purposes, which again begs the question, who's responsible for it in the first place, and to what effect the Russians are lying about it.
Attack. There were 86 children aged 14 to 18 there. 35 people received injuries. They are receiving the necessary medical assistance. Now, Ukraine immediately denied these allegations, and the Kyiv Independent, they said Ukraine's general staff said that overnight on May 22nd, a number of Russian targets were struck, including an oil refinery, ammunition depots, air defense systems, and command posts, as well as the headquarters of Moscow's elite drone unit, Rubicon, in the Starbelt area. So that's what a lot of folks pointed to, saying, well, if Ukraine said that they hit a Rubicon facility in the same location that this dormitory was hit, that must be it. Now, one of the challenges here is there's no international media to go in and verify this. It's only Russian state media. Reuters, for instance, said the United Nations does not have access.
Which is why we went through the list of possibilities earlier on. And that stems from, interception, spoofing of the drone, for Russia purposely steering it into this, to the fact that it could just be that the Russians were utilizing this for military purposes and are now coming out to lie about it being a school or dormitory or what it was utilized for, in totality, right? It could be just an outright blatant lie used for propaganda purposes, or again, it could be a spoof. It could be a drone that was shot down, or what. It could be 1,000 different things at this point. But again, the fact that it's just the Russians reporting on it and how heavily they're trying to utilize this and are focusing on this is again drawing ires, raising red flags. Let's just say, and again, place that with the stupidity and again the lack of evidence to show that Ukraine in any way, shape, or form targets civilian infrastructure, especially when it's on Ukrainian soil. Right, when it's in Luhansk, Russian occupied territory, but in Ukraine, that it would have no benefit, they would have no justification, and there would be no reasoning behind, a targeted strike like this, just for the strike's sake. You know what I mean? So again, all of that taking place. But there was this also that I wanted to show you, and we may hop back into that one, but just to kind of level the reporting out. This says here, this is from the professor, talks about how Russia was able to hit Kyiv, but Ukraine also hit back deep inside of Russia. So again, want to make it, as leveled and as even as possible here. I know a lot of the reporting coming out from, and rightfully so, from the rough night, the horrible night that Kyiv had seen. but also here reporting that even with that, even under those attacks, Ukraine still has the abilities to strike inside of Russia at the same time. So it wasn't like this debilitating attack that shut down Ukrainian armed forces and didn't allow them to continue their fight on the front lines or to continue to target different things in either Russian occupied Ukrainian territory or Russia itself. So just to, like I said, keep the reporting even here. Let's see if we can dive into a couple of these. I think it details a couple of the Ukrainian strikes into Russia, and then we can, if I leave myself enough time, jump back into this Preston Stewart video detailing a little bit more about the strikes inside of Ukraine as well. So what do you say? Hit that like button. I'm Brian. I appreciate you guys for joining me. Appreciate you guys for being with me here. It would be very, very appreciated if you could hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you like what you're hearing and you like what you're seeing. We're trying to get to 25,000 subscribers by the time midterms rolls around, and only with your help and your allegiance are we going to be able to do that. So I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button.
It's Sunday, May 24th, 2026. This is the promised part 2, and this is very unusual for me to do this. Part 1, I showed you everything that was happening in and around Kyiv and the massive strike on Kyiv, so you can understand all the context. I'm going to briefly go over that, and then I'm going to get deeply into what Ukraine was doing to Russia last night. So let's start with this. Here's like oil terminal, supply depots, enemy ships, all kinds of things have been struck by the Ukrainians. But before that, I'll take just a minute or two to show you this. This was the 690 missiles and such that were missiles, Shaheds. Okay, so 91.5% or 92% strike down rate of Shaheds. Kinzel or KH-101 Iskander caliber cruise missiles, 81%.
So he's just quickly recapping again the level of the strike on Kyiv last night, and again the efficacy of the Ukrainians in shooting those down before he goes into the strikes that the Ukrainians are responsible for inside of Russia.
Rate. Iskander MS S-400 ballistic missiles, 36% shoot down rate. And this is where it gets bad. Zircon, 0%. There's only 3 of them. 2 of KH-47 M2s, 0%. And then Arishnik, and that's a big one, 0%. So that's problematic here, and that's where most of the damage is done. You'll notice if you look at this image that it was really striking hard in Kyiv. I mean, there were a couple other places around this, but most of the attention was in Kyiv. This is what an Arishnik looks like when it's coming in. Okay, you can see from this video, the Arishnik has 6 parts and then 6 parts within those 6 parts. So it's like a missile of 36 missiles. Okay, and they were armed. It wasn't a huge arm.
Yeah,
but
and I think I had that one up that detailed this a little better. Let me see here, just to show you what he's talking about there. I think I had, was it this one, Jay in Kyiv that had it posted, I think. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Might not have been him, might have been this one. Was it Anna in Ukraine that posted that? Christ, I always have too much shit pulled up in these things. Might have been this one. Let me see here. Bear with me. It was the one that I just pulled up that said the Arishnik on it. I thought it was this one. I thought it was the Kyiv Independent, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, let me see if I can scroll up. Yeah, here it is right here. I'll throw this on your screen right here. So this basically kind of details what he was just talking about, what Professor was just talking about, the different parts of the Arishnik. Let me see. I'll throw this on your screen here. You can see how it goes up. First stage, second stage. You can see this is just above my head where it says Earth's atmosphere. So it actually leaves Earth's atmosphere. And then it breaks off. You can see the secondary stage where it breaks off, and then the actual system itself, the multiple independently targetable reentry vehicle, the MIRV, excuse me, is what actually comes back into, I'll do that later, is what actually returns into Earth's atmosphere. And then the 6 warheads from that, as you can see detailed just above my head, is what actually comes out of that reentry vehicle and actually goes on to make strikes inside here. I'll get out of the way so you guys can see the completion there. So obviously from left to right, you can see it being launched from its launch system. First stage, the second stage, releases the capsules. Obviously, the secondary release up here makes that the re-entry vehicle visible, and then obviously when it re-enters Earth's atmosphere, obviously at substantial speeds here, it says maximum speed over Mach 10, 12,300 kilometers an hour, which is 7,610 miles an hour, which again details the the difficulty in shooting these things down and intercepting these. I think it becomes pretty apparent right off the bat when you see how fast these things are going. And then obviously when you see there's 6 independent warheads that come in, obviously showing you the exceeding difficulty that it would be in shooting these things down, which is why obviously you saw that it wasn't shot down by Ukraine. But just to detail exactly what these things do and how it is very difficult to mitigate these these strikes, these attacks, and the damages coming from them. Just a little bit of that. So let me see if I put this back on the screen just to kind of give you guys a little bit more information on what we're dealing with here.
Putin's trying to make a political statement here, but look at him falling on Kyiv. That's what that looks like, right? I mean, it's off in a distance, but that's what those 6 parts look like, and they spread out into 6 more parts. People were in the metro yesterday using it as a bomb shelter. Part of the metro was damaged. Now, this is one of the few places where you could argue that it's a legitimate strike, because during Russia's overnight attack on Kyiv, the headquarters of the government of Ukraine was damaged. Certainly hitting civilians in their apartments while they sleep is not. And again, it's illegitimate. The whole war is illegitimate to begin with, but this would be like the closest thing that we've seen documented. They may have struck military targets too, but they certainly struck things like this. And by the way, more than 80 civilians were injured, 4 killed, at least at this. That's what we know at this moment. This is a shopping mall. I mean, that's all that you're seeing. That's what they're attacking last night. Shopping mall in Kyiv, as like, here's the before and here's the after. National Art Museum in Kyiv with its collections destroyed. Russian Defense Ministry claimed that the strike using the Arishnik and Kinzel and Iskander missiles targeted air bases.
Yeah, that Chernobyl museum, a lot of people fucking pissed off about that one. There was a Chernobyl memoriam, I should say, museum kind of there with, different pieces from, the Chernobyl disaster. And that was part of what you just saw there being struck as well, was damaged in the fire. But I'm going to skip on here just a little bit where they go on to detail some of the, the strikes that Ukraine was able to hit back with. Let's see here. It starts off with with this oil terminal that was struck.
To the Russians. Oil terminal at Tamnev gas supply depots, enemy ships have been struck. So last night, Ukraine struck a fuel depot in occupied Luhansk, but that's not the one that we're going to be talking about here. The bigger one was this. Meanwhile, east of Moscow, the Torovo oil pumping station is burning in Russia's Vladimir Oblast. Ukrainian attacks, drones directly or successfully hit a Russian pipeline pumping station to the east of Moscow this morning, and that's important. I'll show you why that's important. Torovo pumping station, a crucial link in Western Russia's diesel and jet fuel pipeline network, and that's a pretty big hit, right? NASA Firms confirms the fire at the facility. And here we see the station is a strategically important hub in a system of main.
And again, these are all strikes by the Ukrainians into either, Russian occupied territory in Ukraine or Russian territory in Russia itself there. So obviously showing that they have the ability, and that, the news shouldn't be completely taken over by the Russian strike inside of Kyiv, but also to detail, the hurt that was put on the Russians last night in these different opportunities in these different places as well. It says the station is strategically important in the hub system of main oil production product pipelines in the Transneft company. Its key role lies in the fact that it is a starting point of the large-scale export project Sever. This is the main route in which Russian diesel fuel is transported from the depths of the Russian Federation to the seaport of Primorsk on the Baltic Sea for further export. Again, detailing the Ukrainians' ability to go after Russia's oil systems.
Product pipelines for the Transneft company. Its key role lies in the fact that it's the starting point of the large-scale export project Sever. This is the main route by which Russian diesel fuel is transported from the depths of Russian Federation into the seaport of Primorsk on the Baltic Sea for further export. So it's clearly on fire. Here's the image of how it's going to get where it's going to go. Map of Western Russia's key oil products pipeline network, Torovo pumping station, is highlighted. So, yeah, I mean, that's what's happening here. So, okay, the moment Ukrainian drones struck elsewhere in, for example, occupied Mariupol. Mariupol's on the Sea of Azov. Yeah, and this is what it sounds like. Listen to this. You're not gonna see anything here. You'll just hear it in the distance.
So you can clearly hear the Russian air defenses engaging, whatever, a Ukrainian drone or some sort of Ukrainian attack in and around Mariupol as well.
That's 100 kilometers from the front line in Mariupol. That's where it is. Okay, on May 23rd and during the night of May 24th, today's the 24th, units of Ukraine's defense forces carried out strikes against a number of key Russian military targets. An oil pier in Krasnodar, a loading stand was damaged. Also struck were an ammunition depot.
So it says also struck an ammunition depot in temporarily occupied Crimea, logistics depot, an ammunition warehouse, and a fuel and lubricant storage facility in Belolutsk in the Luhansk region, UAE command post in the area of Borisivka, Belgorod region, Russia, the Voskresenka, Donetsk region, in Tetkino, Kursk region, Russia, a concentration area of enemy personnel near the settlement of Volfninsky in Russia's Kursk region. In addition, on May 23rd at the naval base in Novorossiysk. It goes on here on the bottom. I can't really detail. But again, on May 23rd and during the night of the 24th, this is what the Ukrainians' defense forces were carrying out strikes against. Again, a number of key Russian military targets, an oil pier, oil loading stand, different terminals. One in Russia's key oil export facilities in the Black Sea region is used to support the army of the aggressor state, and then also the ones that we just went in there. Obviously, the ones that we have reported on since then, previous to that as well. So again, very substantial night for the Ukrainians as well, even though, again, that might kind of be pushed down into the background, into the back burners by the Russian ballistic missile strikes on Kyiv.
Occupied Crimea, logistics depot, ammunition warehouse, fuel, lubricant storage facility.
So where we couldn't see, it said, in addition, on May 23rd at the naval base in Novorossiysk, the patrol ship Petlivi and an air cushion missile boat. What the fuck is an air cushion missile boat? An air cushion missile boat. Air cushion. Does that just mean a hovercraft? Right? Is that just what they call a hovercraft? An air cushion missile boat. It sounds like something fucking Trump would call a military vehicle. You know, the one with the air cushion. It's the air cushion missile boat. The extent of the damage is still being clarified there, but obviously substantial strikes being undertaken by the Ukrainians as well here. Let me see if I can go on.
Concentration of area of enemy personnel in Kursk. In addition, now yesterday on May 23rd, a naval base in Novorossiysk was hit. A patrol ship, Piltilivy. I tried to pronounce that beforehand. I really did practice, but that's like tongue twisting for Piltilivy.
Well, just for, I know you don't watch this, but if you do ever come across this video, a lot of people have kind of afforded me some advice on how to pronounce a lot of these things. Is just take it really slow, right? Just take it really, really slow. You know what I mean? If you tend to fly through it, you're not going to get it right. So if you just slowly sound it out, typically it's a little bit easier to get. But again, that doesn't, I'm not, taking away from the difficulty. Obviously, I've embarrassed myself a few times in trying to pronounce different Ukrainian villages, cities, towns, and obviously in Russia as well.
And air cushion missile boat were struck. The extent of the damage is being clarified, but I saw that yesterday, an hour or two after I released the daily brief. So it's worth talking about that again, and I'll show you the images or the drone attack on that. Ammunition site in Russian-occupied Melitopol, Zaporizhia region in Ukraine is burning. Secondary explosion.
David says it could have been an air hockey boat. Yeah, I know hovercraft's a brand name, but I was just kind of, people more, directly associate hovercraft with the vehicle itself and can kind of generate a visualization of what I'm talking about by saying hovercraft. I've just never really heard it called, what do you call it? An air cushion boat before? Never heard that.
Can be heard there. And here is the drone footage of the attack on the ship. So you're seeing the drone coming in. And
again, this is above and beyond all the strikes that we've heard. This is drone units targeted the remaining vessels of the Russian Black Sea Fleet in Novorossiysk tonight. Among the reported targets were the frigate Admiral Essen and a Project 1239 missile hovercraft. Also, a Russian OSA air defense system was destroyed in Donetsk region.
Yeah, that was it. So it happened. We just don't know what the damage was. Now, this is some interesting commentary. I think this is spot on. I'm not even going to color it green for commentary just because it's like, I think it's all factual. On Friday, now remember, Friday night into Saturday.
So this goes on to say, news, bringing the war back to where it started in Russia, even to its once secure rail lines. On Friday, it was the Sheshkaris terminal and the Grushivaya pumping station in Novorossiysk, critical hubs for Russian oil exports in the Black Sea for military fuel logistics that were severely hit. Now 24 of Russia's 33 major refineries, over a ton per year, have been struck. Some are completely shut down. As a result, Russian oil traders are reporting shortages of AI-95 and even AI-92 gasoline across Moscow and surrounding regions, with growing panic as stations run dry. Crimea is also facing severe shortages. We've talked about that before in the past. Long lines, fuel rationing, its land access routes now under Ukrainian fire, which we discussed in previous shows. A certain panic is also spreading in Kremlin media circles. The Russian propagandist Olga Skabieva visibly lost her cool during a heated live debate with State Duma Deputy Alexei Zhivelayev, railing and expressing outrage in her country that is becoming a laughingstock of enemies. I actually have that clip pulled up somewhere, if I could find it real quick. I think that was put up by Russian Media Monitor, that exact clip. It also goes on to say that Robert Magyar, the commander of Angry Birds, confirmed that during the Friday night strikes on Novorossiysk, he hit a frigate, the Admiral Essen, and this is how you win wars, by striking logistic infrastructure, including in the rear, not by targeting civilians. So again, that update there. Let's see if I can pull this one up, because I know it was the Russian Media Monitor. See if I can pull this up real quick. That was detailing that exact clip of Russian propagandist Olga Skabieva getting very, very unhappy with the fact that her country had basically been laughed at. I think it was detailing the Russian Victory Day parade, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see if I can pull this up before I let you go. Russian Media Monitor, and I'll get you guys out of here for the day. But just to see the reaction here, I think, yeah, here's the one right here. This is Russian Media Monitor. Oops, sorry about the air hockey boat. It was a great quote, but don't need to be up there the whole time there, Chief. Appreciate you. It says, Olga Skabieva is upset that Russia is being laughed at. It's a 7-minute clip. I'll just kind of go on to the middle here where you can see some of what she's talking about. They made a decision to pester us with their attack. She goes on here.
Масштабное наступление. Они приняли решение заколебать нас своими атаками. И, честно говоря, предпринимают.
She says, to be honest, the efforts that they are undertaking are quite successful. Again, talking about the long range and medium strikes into Russia, taking out their plants, hitting their ports in which they need to, again, get and ship the oil off to make the money that they need to continue the war. So she's even talking about how successful the Ukrainians' attacks have been. Meanwhile, her counterpart here is trying to make it seem like, the Russians are just on a verge of some massive breakthrough. Meanwhile, she's talking about how, people seem to be laughing at Russia in how Russia kind of went hat in hand to Volodymyr Zelenskyy to basically say, please don't strike our Victory Day parade and please don't hit inside Moscow type of thing. So she goes on here to say,
довольно успешные всей Европой. Как будто бы отгрузили БП.
She says, along with the entirety of Europe, they have seemed to have basically delivered a load of drones to Russia.
Ну, разве это не так? Никто про стратегические атаки, про широкий фронт даже не думает и даже не говорит. Просто удары, 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 и сил как будто бы у нас...
She even says, it seems like our strength is diminishing. Again, this is Russian propaganda. This is Russian state television here, okay? These are the people supposed to be out there celebrating and cheerleading this war no matter what happens. And we've seen, multiple instances of pushback from different guests. And we've talked about how Olga and what's the other bastard's name? I'm blanking on his name at this point. Vladimir something, I'm blanking on his name, but the other asshole that's prominently known as one of the propagandists here for Russian state media. Like, even he's recently been talking about how embarrassing it is to see these strikes in Moscow, inside of Russia, the lack of efficacy that the Russian air defenses has to mitigate against these attacks from the Ukrainians. So, even to a large extent, they're showing a willingness to be disgruntled on television. But when you say that it seems like our strength is diminishing, it's a pretty clear statement, especially by one of the propagandists, where she's having to be forced to admit this.
Тоже все меньше.
Ну, вот я про что? Вот правильно, этот доклад про это, что сохраняется у них, так сказать, потенциал такой тактический. Но в чем заключается дело? Что войну нельзя выиграть в обороне. Никто войну в обороне ни разу не выиграл. Соответственно, если они не наступают, то наша стратегия...
And this is it. I'll go on. We'll end on this one. This is where she talks about the time frame in which Kyiv has come out and said that, okay, if Russia wants to, again, obtain or achieve all of their goals, it's going to be this long. And they've talked about the ridiculously and farcical, length of time it would take Russia to, again, complete all of its goals. And she even has to bring that up here, too.
И вот тогда будет совсем другая война.
Просто киевский режим издевательским
She says the Kyiv regime mockingly calculated
посчитал, что если такими
that if we keep attacking Ukraine at this speed,
мы будем атаковать Украину, то мы сможем
we can liberate Donbass in 33 years. So again, not sending the signal or the message to the Russian people that this is like on the verge of some flip, on the verge of like some victory here. Like this is Russian state media, I'll say it again, coming out and being like even they're saying it'll be another 33 years before we can even liberate the Donbass, for Christ's sakes. What are we talking about?
освободить Донбасс через 33 года. И они на
Says they are laughing out loud about this.
Ну, пускай похохочет. Смеется тот, кто смеется последний.
Это
Then
факт.
again, he has to go on and say, whoever laughs last, laughs best, basically. But,
Но, тем не менее,
ну, пускай посмеется
стратегической инициативы не имея,
he
они
says, they are pelting us with
забрасывают
drones,
нас БПЛА.
Я думаю,
И производят их
which is
всей
being produced by the whole planet.
планеты. 53 страны
53 countries and their drones are against us, she says.
против нас. И их беспилотники.
да, это так. Но я еще раз говорю,
Тяжело, очень тяжело.
города можно бомбить сколько угодно.
So again, he just kind of goes on to defy whatever she's saying there. But again, Olga's willingness there to bring up the reality of what's taking place and obviously the effectiveness of the Ukrainian strikes they've been having in different parts of Russia. Obviously, in different parts of occupied Ukraine as well. So you can see just how hard these are hitting home, just how hard these strikes are, just how much effect these are having by the people that are speaking about them and the way in which they're speaking about them too. But what do you say we get on and I'll get you guys out of here for the day. I'll start thanking some people on the Venmo side of things. Anybody that wants to, thinks I'm, worthy of $1 or $2 contribution. There's a Venmo up here in the corner. Again, all we ask for is $1 or $2, nothing beyond that. If you feel like it's, I'm worthy of anything beyond that, that is 100% up to you guys and your financial capabilities. I know we're all in very difficult times right now. I know it's very uncertain times that we're living in right now. So again, if you can do the free stuff, like, share, subscribe, you know what I mean? Just send it out to your friends, family, coworkers, anybody that you think may like this podcast, live stream, whatever you want to call it. That would be doing us a great service as well if you can't, come out of pocket with anything. And like I said, we don't charge any money for any of our content. Nothing is hidden behind a paywall. Nothing, you don't have to pay for the Substack. None of the content. You don't have to see a bunch of ads during the live stream. No sponsors or financial backers. This is just the generosity and the great chat and community that we've built here, helping us continue to grow. And I really do appreciate it and thank you guys for that, which is why at the end of every show, we love to highlight and congratulate and appreciate anybody that sent in, a financial contribution or reached a milestone in the chat. So let me head over to Venmo and we'll start thanking some people here. First and foremost, thank you to the mods, as always, for keeping that chat a safe place. Appreciate you guys dealing with the old troll skis in there. But again, the more trolls that come in, the more you see trolls come in, the more you know that YouTube's trying to show this to different people and to different, different communities, which is a good sign. It's a good sign. So thank you so much to Roger, Karen, Jeff, Allison, and over the last couple days, James, Yakov, Victoria. Thank you so much, Nina. Thank you so much, MR. And thank you so much, Roxanne and Nancy, over the last couple days. So very much appreciate you guys again, Roger, Karen, Jeff, and Allison for today. Thank you guys so much for your support, your continued support of this channel. Like I said, it's a Venmo up here just in the corner. If you guys take a picture of that with your cell phone, should bring you right to the appropriate place. And you just send $1 or $2 in, say thanks. I don't drink coffee, but Gatorade, Powerade, orange juice, all goes to the same place. I appreciate it. We got a swear jar as well. JD started that. Oh, thank you so much. Who just sent that in? I saw another one. Somebody just sent that in before I miss it. Thank you to BH. Oh, thank you, Bry Guy. Very much appreciate that. Bry Guy sent in a 10 on Venmo. I see that, brother. Very much appreciate you. And let's get over to YouTube, see if we can thank some people over here. First up today is going to be Petrazi. Let's go, Petrazi. Shout out, Petrazi. Let's go. Member for 23 months and counting. Let's fucking go. Very much appreciate you. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for this channel. Thank you so much for your continued viewership, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your holiday weekend. That goes out for everybody else as well. Thank you so much to Bry Guy again here on YouTube saying Slava Ukraine, Heroyam Slava. Right back at you, Bry Guy. Thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you so much to MT. Shout outs to Ken and Mark. Obviously, all of you guys, much love and respect to you guys for everything that you guys are doing over there. Please let me know if I could be of any assistance. If you need to get a message out, if you need anything talked about, I'm here to do that for you guys as well. So MT, thank you so much, brother. Thank you, Tony. Very much appreciate you for the oranges, the clowns, and the shit with the taco. Message sent, message received. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Roxanne, as well for the $2. Very much appreciate you. The shorts are killing it, bro. Keep it up. I'm trying. Again, it's difficult for me. I'm definitely my own toughest critic, so it's difficult for me to watch the show back and be like, well, that's a part that people would like. I feel very pretentious doing that. So I don't know. Hopefully, maybe at some point we can get to a point where other people may be able to watch it back and do the clips because they might, see some benefit or some value in a segment where I'm like, I can't stand my voice anymore. But Roxanne, I appreciate it, and everybody else sharing this, sharing the show. Liking the shorts, sharing the shorts out. Thank you to Yakov and Slacks over there on Blue Sky. You guys are very instrumental and have been great. A ton of people over there as well. I don't want to limit it to just you guys, but so many people that have been out there sharing the stream and sharing the shorts and stuff. It's gone and helped in a massive way add to the subscriber base here. We've gained some 3,000 or 4,000 in roughly a week, maybe a little bit more than a week, which is something that took us, I don't know, a year or two to do before that. So again, the benefit is pretty obvious. So thank you, Roxanne, for noticing. Appreciate your contribution. Thank you, B-Man. What's going on, brother? Hey, B, I'm late to the show as usual. So starting from the beginning, digging your content. So keep up the good work. Thankfully, my social algorithms love you. Well, I appreciate your social algorithms as much as I appreciate you, Berkeley. Thank you so much for being here for a long time. Berkeley's been in the fight here, so very much appreciated. W's to everybody giving in the chat. Thank you to Grams as well. A brain is a terrible thing to waste. Again, a brain is a terrible thing that Donald Trump is not wasting because he never had it. Not saying that was it, but that's just what it brought to my head. But thank you so much, Grams, for 26 months. Very much appreciated. And as you're 100% right, a brain is a very terrible thing to waste, as we're seeing by the Republicans today. So thank you, Grams. Thank you, Slacks. What's up, Slacks? My brother. What's up, dude? Appreciate you for your contribution. Congratulations on your 23 months here. Love to all the Bryantologists will be sent, and I'm sure it is reciprocated as well. So Slacks, much appreciated. And for the $10 contribution, appreciated. Slava Ukraini, love to you, brother. Love to all my fellow Bryantologists. Love to the brave people of Ukraine, absolutely. And shout out to you, Slacks, one more time. Thank you again. Salt of the Red Earth, as usual. K-Bell asked, what is the McDonald's? Was it the McDonald's at Maidan Square? I believe it was. I'm not, I don't know. I believe it was, judging by the locale of it. Let me see if I can pull that back up real quick, because I know it was Jay in Kyiv, I think, that had that posted. But I'm pretty sure it was. Looked very, very similar to the one that I had, but I don't think it was detailed very much in this one. So you had that, oh, let me throw this on the screen. You weren't looking at it. So it was this one that you had, and then there was this other look as well. But this is definitely the one that I was frequenting. Whether or not that is the same look from the other side or just a different angle remains to be seen. But that's definitely the one with the mall as well. So appreciate your Salt of the Red Earth. But yeah, it's not to make it not to make it overly personal, as by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, there's much more plight taking place, but again, there's definitely a connection to be felt when you've been somewhere, seen a place, and then you see it attacked, or you see it bombed out, or you see any effect whatsoever taken by that or taken to that by the Russians. Again, it gives you a better sense of the damage taken and the people that were living in that area, or live in that area, I should say, and kind of the effect that it has on them. So yeah, it's a shame to see all the way around. But something that, until the United States president and Ukraine's allies decide to step up and put some more pressure on Vladimir Putin to end it, we're likely to see it continue, unfortunately. So yeah, thank you so much, Salt of the Red Earth. Thank you, Jimmy. 2x subs, make a bridge dubs short of Russian vids. I'm trying to do my best. Like I said, it's not the easiest thing to watch back a 2-hour live stream after doing a 2-hour live stream after spending 2 hours setting up the live stream and stuff. You know what I mean? But we're getting them out there. We're getting them done. But Jimmy, I appreciate you, brother. 2x subs, make a bridged dubs shorts on Russian video. So what do you mean? Like different languages? What's a bridged dubs shorts? I'm missing the plot on that one. Let me know, Jimmy. My apologies. Thank you so much, JD. Heroyam Slava, he says. Much appreciated, as always. Throwing that right in the switch. And then thank you so much to Jin. Much appreciated. A brain is a terrible thing to waste 420 times. See? Great minds think alike. A couple saying the same thing here. But thank you so much. Let me see if there was Jimmy in there. Jimmy, you still in here, my brother? What do you mean? Dubbed up? What is dubbed up? Like in different languages, right? Am I crazy? That's what that means? Where is he? Is he still in here? I'm waiting for you, Jimmy. Let me know. I'm guessing. I'm assuming that he means in different languages. Obviously, no sound. I don't know what that means. Abridged. Yeah. But what does that mean in terms of the short? I don't know. Let me know. Maybe Tiff knows and she can yell at me later after the show and let me know what I'm missing on that one. But I do appreciate you guys. I love you as always. Very much appreciated for your support, taking the time out of your busy schedule to catch up on a little bit of the news with me here at Blunt Politics and a fabulous community that we've built here. So thank you so much to Adam. Thank you so much to Rox. Thank you so much to Tiff. Thank you so much to Alyosha and Jen. Thank you so much to Mark and Liz and everybody else that helps out here. Very much appreciate all of the help and support that I've received. I've been very blessed. Yakov, everybody here. I've been very blessed with some of the best mods on the planet, and that's been a big boost, a big help at keeping this community, going and growing and in a safe place at that. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for everything that you've done and continue to do. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out. I'll see you guys. What's today? Sunday. I'll see you guys Tuesday, unless, of course, there are some big, breaking news to cover. Again, if there's a deal signed or if the opposite is in fact true and we decide to, again, start lobbing missiles and drones and bombs into Iran, we'll be sure to pop on to cover that. So appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out. Subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 25,000 subscribers by the time midterms comes around. What do you see? Where are we at right now? Let's take a quick look, see where we're at. We're at 20,296. Right, so let's go. Let's see if we can boost those numbers. See if we can share the stream out. Again, if you're not subscribed, if you may think you're subscribed, but you may not be, hop out. See if you are. If you're not, click that button. It's free to do so. And I'll see you guys Tuesday. And like I said, unless something crazy happens and there's some breaking news to get to, and I'll pop back on and give you guys the updates. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you to the mods. Thank you to the chat. Love you guys as always, and I will see you. Happy Memorial Day. Absolutely. Thank a vet this weekend, Brenda says. Absolutely. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. Thank you to my mouse, which hopefully didn't break. But no, thank you to everybody that served and sacrificed and held up your right hand in honor of defense of this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So salute, shout out to everybody out there. Hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And then, sign up at patreon.com for our Zooms. We will have our Zoom tomorrow night for everybody that's for everybody that was curious, because I know it's Memorial Day. But yeah, I feel no reason why we wouldn't honor some people and get together. But if you guys are signed up at patreon.com/BostonBrian, that gets you involved in the Zoom chats as well. So we got Zoom chats tomorrow night. You can head over to the merch shop and get some Ukraine merch in support of Ukraine. 25% of the sale profit will be donated to United 24 to continue helping along. And then obviously, like I said, our second NAFO 69 Sniffing Brigade campaign, hopefully going to be starting soon, going live soon. So make sure we're looking out for that as well. And like I said, if you head over to Patreon, you get a part of the perks, stickers, some tote bags, obviously the discount to the merch shop. But that also gets you access to our Zooms, which we have every single Monday night. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for everybody signed up there. You guys are absolutely the backbone of the community with the members here on YouTube and everybody that's consistently given here in the chat. So love you, respect you, stay loud, stay proud, stay aggressive. I'll see you Tuesday unless something crazy fucking happens and we need to bring you some breaking updates. All right. I love you. I appreciate you. And I will see you Tuesday. It'll be. Appreciate it. Please, thank you. Refers to a textbook play or recording that has been shortened by condensing or removing less important details while still retaining the original core meaning, plot, and themes. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
I mean, I think it would have been just as easy to say shortened and condensed. But I think that's kind of detailed in the word short as well, Jim. But, you know, my apologies. It was the dub that threw me off. For some reason I was thinking dub meant language. What do you think? Is everything okay with the sound today? Who's up in the chat? Let me know if everything was okay with the sound. No, it's not great now because we're speaking about music, but you know, bring the show. I appreciate you, Jimbo. I do. I really do. Thank you, Pop. Love you, big guy. Hey, at least I didn't sit here the whole time holding this dumb microphone like people do. Right? I love you guys. I'll see you.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Героям слава.
I'm standing up here bashing the living shit out of Nazis.
Fucking Nazis.
Oh, get those lights off! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off. For the rest of my life, I have the curse that I have little hands. Little hands.
Here you got a little chubby going there.
What in the hell was that all about? Taking him back to Nevada where he's wanted for banging horses.
You appreciate those camels? I haven't seen camels like that for a long time.
He says, wrecked him, damn near killed him. Here's a thought. Grow a sack, fill it with some balls.
We're inviting Americans from all across the country to come. Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. For minors, do we love minors? I love minors.
My superpower's being honest.
Вітаю,
I will
Бостон
eat my
Брайан.
neighbors.
Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
What uranium is, right? This thing called nuclear weapons and other things, like lots of things are done with uranium, including some bad things.
The population in Thailand is 63 million people. It is twice the size of Wyoming. Its chief exports are textiles, footwear, and rice. Each year, approximately 13,000 people are killed in car accidents in Thailand.
Man, I ain't falling for no banana in my tailpipe.
You'll have a group of Venezuelan killers, street gangs, occupying the town with MK-47s. I know that gun very well. I got to know it very well. I've become an expert on guns.
It feels so lovely to be here tonight. What a beautiful... Give yourselves a round of applause. You're so lovely. Everyone's so lovely.
How do you lie to the FBI and now you're running for president? Seriously, how do you lie to the FBI and now you're running for president?
We've endorsed JP, right? J.D. Mandel, and he's doing great.